In the year 2167, the demon race conquered the world, and humanity finally fell. Cities lay in ruins, the sky burned with ash, and hope had long since disappeared. Amidst all this destruction, only one man remained standing against the invaders. He was Si Chen, an SS-Rank Lightning Assassin, and the last hope of humanity. All of this had begun 7 years ago, when several demon kings descended upon Earth. Among them was the mighty Lanyue, whose arrival marked the beginning of mankind's downfall. Now, standing face to face with Si Chen, Lanyue looked down at him with disdain. He scoffed and called him nothing more than pathetic garbage, mocking the weakness of the human race. With a cruel smile, the Demon King declared that Si Chen had only one final purpose left. Dark, sinister energy began to gather in Lanyue's hand. Twisting and pulsing with overwhelming power, he announced that Si Chen would become his food, absorbed along with his strength. And without hesitation, he launched the attack. The massive energy blast rushed towards Si Chen, leaving him with nowhere to escape. As it struck him, memories flooded his mind. He remembered the people he had lost, first and foremost, his beloved sister, lying injured and helpless. He then saw the faces of his fallen comrades, those who had fought beside him till the very end. Finally, the image of his great master, the man who had trained him for so many years, appeared before his eyes. Rage consumed him completely. All these people had been taken away by the demons. Because of that, Si Chen swore that even if it cost him his life, he would take Lanyue down with him. Gathering everything he had left, Si Chen activated his ultimate ability, Terminus Arc. A massive explosion of blinding light erupted from his body. Shocked, the Demon King found himself unable to move. He stared in disbelief, wondering what kind of power this human possessed. As his body began to break apart, Si Chen unleashed all of his remaining strength in one final, desperate attack. The light grew brighter, swallowing everything around him. In those final moments, the memory of his injured sister flashed through his mind once again. Then came the image of his master, who had guided him through endless years of training. Lastly, he remembered his happy family, a peaceful time that would never return. Accepting his fate, Si Chen felt deep regret. He lamented that he wasn't strong enough to protect them. He wished he had been just a little stronger, because maybe then, everything would have turned out different. As the explosion raged on, the Demon King cursed him in fury, unable to believe that he was being defeated by a human, by what he called an inferior race. Even in death, Si Chen regretted not discovering the demon's lair sooner. If he had stopped the first Demon King, perhaps all this suffering could have been avoided. Perhaps he wouldn't have lost everyone he loved so early in his life. Suddenly, the blinding light vanished. All Si Chen could see was a light fixture on the ceiling. Slowly, he opened his eyes, still dazed and confused. His body felt strange, yet unharmed. Looking around, he realized he was lying in a bed inside a simple room. Sitting up in shock, he wondered how he could still be alive. Completely lost, he tried to understand where he was and how he had ended up there. He walked over to the window to get a better look. What he saw left him stunned. He was inside a school infirmary. This was impossible. The world should have already been destroyed. After a moment, Si Chen forced himself to calm down. Slowly, he began to accept the unbelievable truth. Somehow, he had gone back in time, 10 years into the past, to his college days. Suddenly, a strange static-like sound echoed in his head. Right after that, a message appeared before his eyes. The power of gluttony has been fully integrated. Looking at the screen, he confirmed the date, May 16th, 2057. This meant only one thing. He had truly returned 10 years into the past. Before everything happened, our guy finally realizes something important. This moment is 3 years before the descent of the fearsome Demon Kings. In exactly 3 years, the first of them, known as Wrath, will arrive and begin the destruction of the world. It was Wrath who opened the gates to the demon realm, allowing the other Demon Kings to invade Earth. That single event marked the beginning of total annihilation and the reason Si Chen lost everything. But now, as he looks down at his own hands, our protagonist knows that things will be different this time. If he can defeat Wrath, then he can stop the gates from ever opening. And if the gates never open, the future itself can be changed. At that moment, the same message from before appears again in front of him, confirming once more that the integration of the power of gluttony is complete. Si Chen frowns, wondering what this strange interface is. Ever since he woke up, it has been floating silently before his eyes. Curious, he reaches out and touches the screen. His fingers pass through what feels like pure energy and flowing data. Suddenly, the interface expands, revealing a flood of information that leaves him completely stunned. A status screen appears. It displays his name, Chen, along with all his attributes, each marked at level 100. Our hero is completely confused. In his past life, he had never seen anything like this. He had relied only on his awakened power, nothing more. In this world, only 1 out of every 10,000 people can awaken and obtain a unique class. And the college he attends is the best in the country, created specifically to recruit and train these future heroes. Yet in his past life, Si Chen was a complete failure. He never awakened at all. That was why he was constantly bullied and beaten down. Suddenly, the interface begins to glow again, displaying new information. A detailed file appears: Lightning Assassin. Class, listing all of its abilities and traits. Si Chen freezes. This was the exact same class he had in his past life. A familiar power stirs within him, sending chills down his spine. He wonders if he somehow inherited his former strength. If that's true, then it means he awakened much earlier this time. Determined, our protagonist decides to test this new power and see what it can do. But before he can act, he hears a sound. The door suddenly opens, and a surprised boy rushes inside. It's Malong, an E-rank flower enchanter. He quickly runs over and anxiously asks if Si Chen is awake and whether he's feeling okay. Our hero calmly replies that he's fine. At the same time, he realizes something important. Just as he suspected, no one else can see the interface. Malong stares at him in disbelief. He can't believe that all of Si Chen's injuries are completely gone, especially after the brutal beating he suffered yesterday. Completely baffled, Malong doesn't know what to say. This boy is Si Chen's college roommate. Seeing him again causes Si Chen's heart to tighten. In his past life, Malong had died. Knowing that his friend is alive fills him with genuine happiness. Looking at Malong, Si Chen finally feels certain. He truly has gone back in time. Malong then remembers something important. The ranking test is tomorrow, and they need to prepare, saying that the test is crucial for their graduation assessment. He grabs Si Chen and pulls him out of the infirmary room. Outside, they enter the massive college courtyard, which is filled with students preparing for the test. All around them, students are training, some practicing combat techniques, others activating their abilities. A few are running drills, while some casually play ball nearby. The scene is strangely peaceful. Watching this, Si Chen quietly comments that it's been a long time since he's seen so many living people. Malong is a bit spooked by the comment and nervously suggests that they just take a walk around the courtyard. As they walk, our protagonist falls into deep thought. He reflects on how he had already lost everything once before. Si Chen knows that if he does nothing, that same hopeless future will repeat itself all over again. If he does nothing, the future will simply repeat itself. Realizing this, Si Chen decides that he must act immediately. He needs to grow stronger as fast as possible. However, there's a serious problem. The only way to level up is by hunting monsters in the demon layers, and those areas are completely monopolized by the major guilds. Outsiders like him don't stand a chance of getting access. Still, Si Chen begins to wonder just how strong he is right now with his current stats. Among students, most are only E-rank, and only true geniuses ever reach D-rank. Even with all his past life experience, he's curious to see what rank he might achieve in tomorrow's test. Looking at Malong, he's certain of one thing. At the very least, he's already far stronger than his friend. Suddenly, a basketball comes flying through the air and smashes straight into Malong's face. The poor guy doesn't even have time to react. He's knocked off his feet and crashes to the ground, clutching his face in pain. A mocking voice echoes out as a group of students appears at the top of the stairs. A gang of bullies has arrived. Their leader smirks and comments that the two of them recovered pretty quickly from the last beating they took. Malong turns pale. He's terrified. They've run into this guy again. Si Chen, however, shows no fear at all. He calmly steps forward and faces the group head-on. The bully glances at Malong and remarks with fake admiration that the two of them are surprisingly tough. Then, wearing an arrogant smirk, he asks why they didn't bring drinks for his crew. Malong panics immediately. He bows his head and starts apologizing, saying he'll go buy the drinks right away. But before he can leave, Si Chen stops him. He calmly tells Malong that he did nothing wrong, and that it should be them who apologize instead. Hearing this, Si Chen remembers what happened yesterday. In his memory, the same group of bullies is seen forcing his head into a toilet, giving him a swirly. They beat him mercilessly, laughing the entire time. Malong desperately begged them to stop, but no one listened. Their leader smiled and said he was just trying to help. Since Si Chen hadn't awakened yet, he figured a little push might motivate him. The group burst into laughter, clearly enjoying his suffering. When Si Chen finally passed out, they lost interest and walked away. Malong had rushed to his side, shaking him and calling his name, terrified as his friend lay unconscious on the floor. Back then, Si Chen had wondered why those people would never leave them alone. Returning to the present, he realizes something important. Evil doesn't exist only in the demon layers, it exists in the human world too. The bully grows excited by Si Chen's defiant response. Grinning widely, he tells his friends that it looks like they're going to have some more fun today. He repeats his question, demanding to know why they didn't bring drinks for him and his buddies. Malong tries to apologize again, offering to go buy drinks immediately. Once more, Si Chen stops him. He tells his friend firmly that they have nothing to apologize for. The bully looks confused, clearly not understanding what Si Chen means. Malong is also startled by his friend's sudden confidence and quietly asks him what he's saying. At that moment, Gong Chen, an E-rank flower warrior, steps forward. He slowly walks toward them with a smug expression. Si Chen locks eyes with him, showing not a single shred of fear. He stands firm, ready for whatever comes next. He knows the truth. Gong Kun only acts so arrogant because his older brother is the council president. As the tension rises, other students begin to gather at a distance, forming a loose crowd around them. Whispers spread, and mocking laughter fills the air as everyone starts making fun of the pair. The crowd continues mocking them, calling the two of them the most useless guys in the entire school. Gongcheng steps closer to Si Chen, glaring at him as his fists begin to glow with energy. With an angry expression, he asks what Si Chen just said, making it clear that he didn't like the answer at all. Completely unfazed, Si Chen calmly replies that they should stop bothering them and leave them alone. Annoyed, Gongcheng sneers and says that Si Chen clearly needs another beatdown to learn his lesson. Without warning, he lunges forward and throws a punch straight at Si Chen's face, using all his strength. To everyone's shock, Si Chen dodges the punch effortlessly and immediately strikes Gongcheng's arm. The students watching from the sidelines are stunned. They can't believe what they just saw happen right in front of them. Even Malong is in disbelief. Si Chen not only blocked the attack, but as far as anyone knew, he hadn't even awakened yet. Gongcheng explodes with rage. He refuses to accept being challenged by a weakling he's always bullied. But to Si Chen, this is the perfect opportunity. He decides to test his newly gained power right here. In that moment, the class change completes, and Si Chen officially becomes a level 1 electric assassin lightning. Begins to crackle around his body. Malong stammers in shock, asking when Si Chen awakened, but Si Chen ignores the question completely. His eyes remain locked on Gongcheng, his gaze cold and unshaken. Furious, Gongcheng activates his indestructible demon armor and charges forward, shouting that he'll make Si Chen taste his killer punch once again. This time, however, Si Chen doesn't back away. Covered in lightning, he steps forward to meet the attack head-on. In a swift motion, Si Chen delivers a powerful punch straight into Gongcheng's face. The impact is overwhelming. Gongcheng is sent flying across the school courtyard, crashing down far away. Everyone's jaw drops. No one can believe that Si Chen just sent Gongcheng flying with a single punch. Lying on the ground, the bully curses loudly and accuses Si Chen of using a sneak attack. He then yells at his friends, asking if they're just going to stand there and watch. But Gongcheng's friend is frozen in fear, unable to even form a sentence. Si Chen stands there surrounded by lightning, his eyes glowing, looking absolutely terrifying. Still unwilling to give up, Gongcheng shouts that he's going to finish this. Gathering everything he has left, he charges in again with full force. This time, Si Chen stops the attack with just one hand. He catches Gongcheng's fist effortlessly. Gongcheng's eyes widen in shock. He can't believe his punch was stopped so easily. Looking down at him coldly, Si Chen tells him that they are simply too weak. Then without hesitation, Si Chen lands a full-power electric punch straight into Gongcheng's face. The impact is insane. Gongcheng is thrown backward before he even realizes what hit him. He flies several meters through the air before crashing violently into the ground, cracking the concrete beneath him. With just that single blow, the fight is over. The bully lies in a broken heap on the ground, completely defeated. Everyone watching is utterly stunned. One student stands there with his jaw hanging open, his glasses cracked, unable to comprehend what he just witnessed. They all wonder how Si Chen became so unbelievably strong. Meanwhile, Si Chen calmly looks at his status screen and reaches a few conclusions. First, he realizes that he can switch to the electric assassin class whenever he wants. Second, he understands something even more shocking. Even at level 1, he is already terrifyingly strong enough to handle the weaker awakened. But even so, Si Chen still doesn't know his exact rank. As he thinks about it, he realizes there's another problem. Looking at his status screen, he notices that nothing changed even after defeating Gongcheng. An idea suddenly pops into his head. He walks over to the fallen bully, making Malong and the others panic. They think Si Chen is about to finish Gongcheng off for good. Ignoring their shouts, Si Chen calmly brings his lightning-covered hand close to Gongcheng's face. He wonders if gaining experience works the same way as in his past life. Before he can test his theory, a clear voice cuts through the tension. A blonde girl steps forward and tells him to stop. She introduces herself as Lanyue, the vice president of the student council. She says that the punishment has already been sufficient and assures him that the bully won't bother them anymore. Si Chen turns to her and asks why the student council seems so eager to protect him. He explains that he wasn't going to do anything. But people like Gongcheng never stop unless they're properly put in their place. Seeing the cold look on Si Chen's face, Gongcheng's friends grow terrified. They quickly swear that they'll never provoke him again. As Si Chen and Malong walk away, the students watching are still unsure. They whisper among themselves, wondering if those two are really the same losers from before. Lanyue simply watches them leave. Afterward, she tells her group that they can go as well. Later that night, the scene shifts to the men's dormitory at the college. Inside their room, Malong excitedly tries to convince his roommates that Si Chen truly awakened. He passionately tells them how Si Chen completely wiped the floor with Gongcheng and his group of idiots. A core mage scoffs at the story and asks where Si Chen is now. He says it's ridiculous to believe that someone so strong would still need to do basic physical training like running. A flower enchanter named Shang Yuyu agrees, saying Malong must have hit his head. After all, the four of them were placed in the same dorm because they were labeled the worst students of the year. Shang Zhu suddenly gets worked up and says that he's only the fourth worst, which technically makes him number 1 in that room. He proudly brags that he's the only one with a combat class. while the others are just support types. Shu adds that Si Chen is far too weak to be a lightning assassin. He then reminds everyone that tomorrow is the final ranking test, and everything will become clear then. That test will decide who the strongest among them really is. Meanwhile, inside an E-rank training lair, a massive flame lights up the surroundings. A fiery portal opens, and a well-dressed man with slightly stained clothes steps out. This is Gong Ting, the student council president and Gong Cheng's older brother. With a cold gaze, Gong Ting tells his group that today's training is over and orders them to leave. Before walking away, he casts a disdainful glance at one of his followers. Soon after, Gong Ting finds his younger brother waiting for him, covered in bandages and bruises. Gong Cheng complains that he won't be able to sleep unless his brother gets revenge for him. Calmly, Gong Ting replies that he already got the message and will take care of it. He assures his brother that he'll resolve the situation as soon as possible. Later, Gong Ting sits down for dinner with Lanyue. As she calmly cuts a piece of steak, the vice president asks how he plans to handle the situation. Now that his brother has been beaten so badly, Gong Ting responds by asking if that guy is really as strong as his brother claims. Lanyue begins to explain that Lanyue continues explaining that less than 10 people in the entire school have reached D rank, and Gong Ting has already recruited every single one of them. She adds that the remaining students don't have access to the demon layers, which means they have no way to improve further. Meanwhile, outside the campus, Si Chen is running through the rain as part of his daily training. His body is weighed down by 100 kilograms, yet he still runs a distance of 20 kilometers every day. This kind of basic training strengthens his physical body, which is absolutely essential for any powerful awakened. Even so, Si Chen knows deep down that this level of effort is still far from enough. As rain pours down around him, memories resurface. He remembers the year 2160, the day the Demon King of Wrath descended upon the world. It was on that very day that his only remaining family, his sister, was taken from him by that monster. Wrath was the one who opened the gates to the demon realm, allowing countless demons to invade Earth. That single moment marked the beginning of everything. Because of that, Si Chen knows his first and most important goal. He must stop Wrath if he can. Eliminate the Demon King of Wrath. He can prevent the gates from ever opening. Wrath is the source of all the destruction that followed. There are only 3 years left until Wrath's arrival, and Si Chen must become stronger, faster than the Demon King himself. Suddenly, in the middle of the rain, his phone starts vibrating in his pocket. He pulls it out and freezes. It's a call from his sister. The name on the screen makes his heart tremble. It's Sun, his younger sister, returning the many missed calls he had made earlier. With shaking hands, Si Chen answers. The moment he hears her voice, everything inside him tightens. On the other end of the line, his sister cheerfully explains that her phone had died during a competition. She excitedly tells him that if she wins, their rent problem will finally be solved. Si Chen remembers how, in that ruined future, he had prayed endlessly for a second chance. His sister notices his silence and asks if everything is okay, wondering if it's raining where he is. With tears mixing into the rain, Si Chen tells her it's nothing, that everything is fine. He simply says that it's been a long time since he's heard her voice, even though she doesn't understand what he truly means. After the call ends, Si Chen stops for a brief moment. He knows it now. Everything has truly started over, and this time he will not fail. With renewed determination, he continues running through the rain. No matter the cost, he will grow stronger. He will protect the people he loves, and the world he nearly lost forever. Later, back in the dormitory, Si Chen takes a shower and slowly adjusts to his younger body, one filled with untapped potential. As he dries off, his thoughts turn serious. He knows his biggest problem hasn't been solved yet. To level up, he must enter the demon layers, but those areas are tightly controlled by powerful guilds. Only the rich and influential are allowed access, which means ordinary people have no way to hunt monsters or grow stronger. So the question remains, how will he find monsters? On top of that, he still doesn't understand what the mysterious power of gluttony truly is. Suddenly, the gluttony system activates. Before he can react, Si Chen is pulled into a strange space. His body crashes down hard as he lands in a bizarre world with a crimson floor and a reddish sky stretching endlessly above him. In the distance, he sees a massive, sinister tower, towering over everything else. He has no idea what it is, or where he is. Completely confused, Si Chen wonders what just happened. Just moments ago, he was sleeping. Back in the real world, Malong casually tells the others that Si Chen went out for a run. But in reality, Si Chen is somewhere else entirely, standing in that strange realm, staring at the ominous tower. Suddenly, he hears a sound. Turning around, he realizes that bizarre skeletal creatures are approaching him. These monsters are unfamiliar. Sanjo E-rank cloud warriors. Creatures he's never seen before. Seeing them, Si Chen wonders if he's been transported into some kind of demon lair. Without hesitation, he prepares for battle. Even though he doesn't understand what's happening, he immediately activates his electric assassin class. Lightning begins to surge around his body as his abilities awaken. Ready to face the threat head-on, the class change immediately boosts his speed and attack power. Without hesitation, the skeletal creatures charge straight toward Si Chen. But with his newly gained speed, he effortlessly dodges their attacks and slices through them. Yellow lightning flashing with every movement. With a clean strike, he shatters one of their skulls. As the creature collapses, 3 fangs drop as loot. Encouraged, Si Chen continues his assault, annihilating the skeletal monsters one by one. With each takedown, more fangs scatter across the ground. At this point, Si Chen realizes something important. With his current strength, defeating these E-rank monsters is ridiculously easy for him. Not only does he gain items, but he also receives 52 experience points per kill. As the experience accumulates, a notification appears. He is leveled up. Si Chen reaches level 2. Looking at his status screen, he notices that all his attributes have increased by 5 points. That's when it hits him. He can actually level up inside this place. This isn't a normal demon lair. It's something else entirely. A realization dawns on him. This feels like a private training lair, created just for him. Before he can think further, the ground trembles. A powerful presence emerges, and a massive figure steps forward. It's the Sanjo King, an E-rank cloud warrior boss. Without warning, the creature fires a devastating energy beam straight at him. Instead of panicking, Si Chen sees this as the perfect opportunity to test his strength. Lightning surges around his body as he launches himself into battle. When the fight finally ends, the result is clear. Si Chen levels up again, now reaching level 3. As rewards, he obtains 18 fangs and a crystal. Looking at his updated stats, he realizes he leveled up twice in an incredibly short time. Boss monsters truly do give massive experience. But then, something unexpected happens. A strange message appears above the defeated boss's body. Absorption available. Si Chen freezes. He doesn't understand what it means. Absorption? That shouldn't be possible. Hesitating for only a moment, he reaches out his hand to test this mysterious option. Suddenly, a brilliant light envelops him. As it does, Si Chen feels a dark energy begin to flow from the monster's remains and surge toward his body. The energy gathers into his fist as he absorbs it completely. When the light fades, the monster's body is gone, replaced by a class card floating in the air. Holding the card, Si Chen finally understands. He can absorb enemies and turn them into classes. The shock hits him like a thunderbolt. A memory flashes through his mind. A vision of himself being consumed by a brilliant light. Within that memory, the figure of the Demon King Lanyue appears. The scene repeats, clearer this time, revealing the truth. This power belongs to the greedy moon demon lord. As Si Chen's eyes glow, he realizes the horrifying truth. The devouring power of the demon lords now belongs to him. In this world, classes are divided into strong and weak, but everyone can only possess one. Yet Si Chen now holds 2 classes at the same time, completely breaking the rules of the world. And if he can absorb monsters, then he could obtain countless classes. The sheer potential leaves him both shocked and determined. But even so, questions remain. How did he obtain such an absurd power? And more importantly, what exactly is that demonic tower standing before him? Suddenly, a crushing pressure descends from above, distorting the air and weighing down everything around him. Si Chen stiffens, barely able to breathe. He has no idea what's happening in this strange place. Then a voice echoes through the space. It greets him, saying that he has finally arrived, and that it has been waiting for him. From the shadows, a lord-like figure slowly emerges. The being calls Si Chen by name, revealing that it already knows who he is. In this world, awakened beings are ranked by the government from E to S, from weakest to strongest. Before Si Chen can react, he's suddenly sent flying by a surprise attack, crashing hard into the ground. He grits his teeth. In his past life, it took everything he had just to reach S rank, and even then, he nearly died countless times. Now, he's barely at D rank, and to make matters worse, the being standing before him is clearly far beyond his current level. The being standing before him is an S rank. Its power far beyond anything Si Chen can currently handle. Steeling himself, Si Chen prepares to fight. He can't understand what kind of place would contain an S-rank monster, nor how this mysterious being even knows his name. They clash. Again and again, they exchange dozens of blows. But with each exchange, Si Chen becomes painfully aware of the truth. The Lord could have killed him many times over. Instead, every strike deliberately avoids his vital points, knocking him away again and again as if to demonstrate overwhelming superiority. Finally, the Lord delivers a devastating blow, sending Si Chen flying effortlessly. Rising slowly, battered and bruised, Si Chen hears the creature speak. It asks whether he will continue to resist its will. In that moment, Si Chen realizes something terrifying. The monster doesn't want to kill him. It wants to subjugate him. The Lord then makes its offer. It tells Si Chen to remain here and guard the tower as its subordinate. Without hesitation, Si Chen refuses. He shouts that he will never stay in this cursed place. The response is immediate. A beam of dark energy shoots forward and pierces straight through his chest. Si Chen's eyes widen in shock. Blood spills from his mouth as he collapses, unable to believe what just happened. The Lord coldly explains that it had only been patient because Si Chen was the only one who had ever made it this far. Moments later, a sinister force wraps around Si Chen's body. lifting him helplessly into the air. Dark energy floods the space as the Lord releases its full power. For the final time, it asks him to choose. Either he stays, or he will be reduced to dust. Lightning crackles violently around Si Chen's body. Even on the brink of death, his eyes burn with resolve. He declares that he has only one choice. Then he charges forward, shouting that his decision is to take the Lord down. The boss scoffs, finding the attempt laughable, and prepares to crush him. Their powers collide in a massive explosion. Against all odds, Si Chen breaks through the dark energy and closes the distance for one final strike. As he attacks, he reveals that during their battle, he has already analyzed everything. The Lord has a 0.4-second wind-up before each attack. By calculating the blade's trajectory, Si Chen can dodge it. More importantly, after every strike, the boss has a 0.2-second delay. That tiny opening is the key. If he strikes during that moment, he can pierce the enemy's heart with a single blow. Si Chen knows the truth. He cannot win this fight. But the shock from that strike will stun the Lord for a few seconds. Before, he had no time to escape because the enemy was too fast. Now, those few seconds are more than enough. Without hesitation, Si Chen turns and runs. He shouts that there is only one source of light in this strange world. Reaching out, he leaps toward what he believes is the exit. But just as he gets close, the light vanishes. His heart sinks. The Lord's voice echoes behind him, calmly stating that the light was merely an illusion. It reveals that this place is not a demon lair at all. Despite everything, the creature sounds impressed. It praises Si Chen for finding a weakness so quickly, even in desperation. He analyzed every detail and risked his life for a chance that was almost non-existent. Then, the Lord finally reveals its identity. It calls itself the Infernal Rakshasa, a powerful S-rank Star Wars, for he had seen it once before on the body of the Demon King. Lanyue remembered his final battle in his previous life clearly. In that battle, Lanyue switched between several high-rank classes with total ease. He was fighting as a giant icebird, then transforming into a fire warrior, then into a massive grass monster. Si Chen remembered well that among those many forms, there was a form that had exactly this appearance. Chen stood frozen in shock as a terrifying thought struck him. Did this mean that Roxia of Purgatory had been devoured by Lanyue, using the power of gluttony? And if that power had now merged with his own body, then the truth became impossible to deny. This place was inside his own body. Raksha praised Si Chen's extraordinary mental strength and sharp wit, stating that he had proven himself worthy of everything this place contained. Si Chen listened in disbelief, still struggling to process his words. Everything. Here, he murmured. At that moment, a glowing object appeared before Raksha. It was the SSS-Rank Void Key, the only key capable of opening the gates of the demonic tower. Raksha explained that Lanyue had devoured countless fierce demons over time, and the strongest among them had been sealed behind him. Inside the tower were monsters beyond imagination. Raksha urged Chen to devour them, all to grow stronger and turn every single one of them into fuel for his power. After receiving the key, Si Chen hesitated and asked Raksha in confusion why he was helping him like this. Raksha replied calmly that even within the demon race, there existed a line between good and evil. He revealed that the demon kings had slaughtered his entire clan, all to satisfy their endless greed. He had waited for an eternity for revenge, and now that chance stood before him. Raksha declared that that man had been right, and that Chan was the only hope capable of succeeding. Confused, Chan asked who this man was. In response, Raksha simply pointed toward the demonic tower. All the answers you seek are hidden inside, he said. Go and find them yourself. Suddenly, Raksha's body began to glow with a brilliant sky blue energy. He offered his power to Si Chen, telling him to take it and make their enemies pay the price. Si Chen could hardly believe what he was hearing and hesitated, wondering if he truly had to accept such power. Raksha roared enthusiastically, ordering him to become unstoppable. He told Chen to open the gates of the demonic tower and devour everything inside it. However, he also warned him that the demons, sealed within, were far more cunning and terrifying than himself. You must endure everything, Raksha said firmly. Conquer them all. Stand at the peak of this world. Continue forward until you devour every single demon king. As Raksha's body slowly faded away, he declared that only a man with such determination was worthy of his power. A massive surge of energy exploded in Si Chen's hand. A victory screen appeared before his eyes, announcing that Si Chen's level had risen to 10 after devouring Raksha. He also obtained Raksha's underworld bones. Standing before the endless void, Si Chen clenched his fist and declared that he understood. He would carry Raksha's will with him. The devouring process was completed, and the Raksha of Purgatory card appeared, displaying powerful abilities such as Bone Fist Ruin and Triple Gravity Strike. Chen swore silently that he would make them all pay the price, in blood. Suddenly, Chen woke up to a loud noise. He was back in his dorm room. His roommates were rushing around, reminding each other to wear their school uniforms and not be late. Disoriented, Chen wondered if everything that had happened was nothing more than a dream. He quickly checked his body and noticed that all his wounds had completely healed. But when he checked his status system, the truth became clear. Everything was real. His level had risen to 10, and even the loot he had obtained in that mysterious place had returned with him. Realizing that he had jumped 10 levels in a single night, Si Chen couldn't help but wonder what rank he would now be classified as. Before he could think further, his roommate Xiang Zuo called out his name. With a sarcastic grin, Xiang Zuo mentioned that someone, referring to Ma Long, had been talking big about Chen the previous night, claiming he had become extremely strong. In a challenging tone, Xiang Zuo asked if Si Chen truly intended to overthrow his control as the strongest in the dorm. He invited him to go to the rank test and prove what he was really capable of. Xiang Zuo added that although their dorm was considered a group of rank E, each rank was divided into 3 layers, and they were currently only at the lowest level. Xiang Zuo declared confidently that while the others were still at low rank E, he himself was already at mid-rank E. He emphasized that the gap between each layer was enormous and claimed that he could easily face 10 of them at once. Walking ahead of the group, Xiang Zuo muttered to himself that perhaps his rank had risen since the last test. At that moment, Ma Long approached Xian with excitement, encouraging him to give his best performance. With a grin, he told him to aim directly for rank D, just to scare Xiang Zuo. Hearing this, Xian simply reflected on his words with faint sarcasm, saying nothing. Soon, the students arrived at the test arena, where the atmosphere was lively and filled with excitement. Everyone was preparing nervously, eager to prove themselves. As they entered, Xiang Zuo noticed a group of students, pushing others around arrogantly. It was Gong King's followers. Xiang Zuo suggested quietly that they move away from them to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, his expression changed the moment he realized that Gong King's followers had noticed them. Panic flashed across his face, but something unexpected happened. When Gong King's followers saw Xian, their expressions turned pale with fear. Shocked, they stared at him for a brief moment before suddenly bowing deeply with great respect. In loud voices, they welcomed him. Big Brother Sen has arrived! The entire scene stunned Xiang Zuo. He stared in disbelief, completely confused by the sudden respect shown towards Xian. Doubt crept into his heart, and he began to wonder if everything Ma Long had said earlier might actually be true. Ma Long, on the other hand, smiled triumphantly. Xian ignored the bowing followers entirely and continued walking forward calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. Suddenly, a sharp voice echoed through the arena. Si Chen. A man stepped forward. It was Zhang Jian, one of the student council officers. With a mocking smile, he remarked that he had heard about the small incident involving Gong King that happened the previous day. In a sarcastic tone, Zhang Jian asked Qian if he knew who Gong King really was. He then explained arrogantly that Gong King was the younger brother of their esteemed student, council president Lord Gong King. The surrounding students immediately recognized Zhang Jian and whispered among themselves, calling him the president's pampered dog. Anxiety spread through the crowd. As everyone knew Zhang Jian was a powerful D-rank awakened, they couldn't understand why he was deliberately targeting Xian, and the atmosphere quickly became tense. Zhang Jian stepped closer to Xian with a smirk. I have a very sharp sense of smell, he said proudly. I can detect truly powerful people from a mile away. He leaned in closer, his face almost touching Xian's, and continued in a humiliating tone. But from you, he sneered, I smell nothing at all, only the pathetic scent of someone destined to stay at the very bottom forever. Unfazed, our protagonist just stares at him and asks if he's some kind of dog. With that, Zhang Jin gets completely furious and yells, asking, just as Zhang Jin was about to continue his outburst. Another cold and authoritative voice echoed through the hall, ordering him to stop causing a scene. Everyone turned in surprise. It was Gong Ting, the president of the student council. Gong Ting calmly stated that he had already investigated the entire matter. After reviewing everything, he concluded that his brother was in the wrong. Turning toward Zhang Jian, he said in a firm tone that anyone who commits a mistake must pay the price for it. With that final remark, Zhang Jian could only grit his teeth and leave the scene in humiliation. Afterward, Gong Ting didn't move. Instead, he stood there silently, staring at Sen with a deep, thoughtful expression, as if trying to see through him. Chen met his gaze without flinching, maintaining eye contact with the same intensity. The air between them felt heavy, filled with unspoken tension. Soon after, the rank assessment test officially began. A teacher stepped forward and explained that every student would be called one by one. Gongting finally turned away and left with Zhang Jian, casually remarking that such Chen didn't seem like a major threat. From a high window overlooking the hall, a mysterious blonde woman watched everything unfold. Someone beside her asked why she was here and whether she had found any students worth paying attention to. With a faint smile, she replied that this test was going to be very interesting to watch. An hour later, the assessments finally began. The next name called was Xiang Zuo. With a determined expression, he stepped forward, fully prepared to reveal his true strength to everyone watching. Each test had to be conducted individually inside a training demon lair. Inside the chamber was a demonic heart, a special device capable of absorbing and analyzing a student's energy. The awakened had to release all of their power directly in front of it. Shangza took a deep breath and unleashed all his strength in a single, powerful blast toward the demonic heart. The heart absorbed the energy and transmitted the data through cables to an external machine. Moments later, the machine processed the information, and the results appeared on the screen. Xiangzu reached mid-E rank. The teacher confirmed the result but frowned slightly, noticing that another data field had not yet appeared. Milong grew visibly nervous and whispered that this was the real highlight of the test. In addition to current rank, the system could also measure a student's maximum potential. A second result soon appeared: C rank potential. Although this was considered impressive, Xiangzuo felt deeply disappointed. After 2 full years, his strength hadn't improved at all. He had hoped to reach D rank. With a heavy heart, he left the testing area. As the next students were called, his friends tried to comfort him, saying that they were even weaker. Unfortunately, that turned out to be true. Both Xiangyu and Milong only reached low E rank. Then suddenly, a new result flashed onto the screen. The 3 friends froze in shock. To everyone's amazement, the first D rank of the year appeared, sending the entire hall into an uproar. Cheers erupted from all directions. Not long after, another student reached D rank, but with an even more terrifying A rank potential. Seeing this, the 3 friends felt completely crushed. By now, it was already the 8th D rank of the day. The teachers were stunned. Normally, only 2 or 3 students reach D rank in an entire year. With most of the tests completed, the teacher prepared to announce the final student. The hall went quiet as the name was called: Gongting. The crowd immediately exploded in excitement. After all, this was the student council president and the young master of the Imperial Guild. People shouted countless titles, calling him the chosen one, while our protagonist watched silently from a distance. Many whispered that Gongting had already been D rank 2 years ago, and now wondered just how far he had progressed. Inside the testing chamber, the demonic heart pulsed as Gongting approached. Calm and confident, he placed his hand forward. In his mind, he decided to hold back a portion of his power, planning to reveal something even greater later. Even so, he was certain that his current strength would make him #1 in the school's history. The machine began processing the data. Suddenly, the teacher's eyes widened in shock. The color of the energy displayed on the screen was completely different from everyone else's. Moments later, the final result appeared: high D rank, S rank potential. The hall erupted into chaos. No one had expected a high D rank, let alone an S rank potential. The crowd screamed in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Jiang Jian and his friends stood frozen, their faces pale as they stared at the screen. The crowd erupted in celebration, shouting at the top of their lungs that Gongting was the first in the school's history to achieve such a result. Maung's jaw dropped as he realized they had just witnessed history being made right in front of them. The teachers quickly confirmed the results and immediately decided to report the achievement to their superiors. The hall went completely wild. An awakened with S-rank potential was an extremely rare treasure, someone directly protected by the state. Moreover, as the son of the Imperial Guild's leader, Gongting's achievement was guaranteed to become national news. From a distance, the mysterious duo quietly observed the chaos. They commented that this year's test was revealing an unusual number of talented individuals. The man, Yuan Long, the university's director, turned to the woman and asked whether she already knew about Gongting's potential. She shook her head calmly and replied that she didn't. She added that she hadn't come all this way just to watch him perform. With a faint smile, she revealed that compared to Gongting, she was far more interested in another student's performance. At that moment, the focus shifted directly to our protagonist, who stood silently, watching everything unfold with a serious and unreadable expression. Soon after, the teacher announced the next and final student to be tested: Si Chen. As soon as his name was called, Jiang Jin stepped forward and shouted mockingly, telling Si Chen to at least bring some honor to their dorm. He sneered, saying that if all 4 of them were trash, then their dorm would become the biggest joke in the entire university. He continued his insults, claiming that a group of weaklings like them would only bring shame to the school. Unable to tolerate it anymore, Milong snapped and shouted back, telling that idiot to just wait and see the results. With all his strength, Milong yelled that Si Chen was going to blow everyone's minds. Seeing the escalating tension, Shang Yu and the others grew worried, unsure of what was about to happen. Inside the testing lair, Si Chen stepped into position and prepared himself. The demonic heart inside the booth pulsed quietly, ready to measure his energy. As he stood there, Si Chen reflected on reality. For an awakened to have a future, the only real path was to join a high-ranking guild, and the only way to catch the attention of those guilds was through the graduation combat assessment. The squad that secured first place would have all its members recruited by the powerful Imperial Guild. This meant that the current test wasn't merely about ranking students. It served a far greater purpose. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, Jiang Jin introduced Yanlin, a newly recruited D rank, to Gongting's group. He boasted confidently that with 9 D ranks this year in Gongchang, victory was practically guaranteed for them. The true aim of this test was now clear, to gather the strongest individuals for the final graduation assessment. However, as strong teams began to form, a team of weaklings was also taking shape. Meng grew increasingly uneasy. He wondered why Si Chen had been inside the booth for so long. There was no movement, and the results screen remained completely blank. Something felt off. Other students began mocking him, laughing that Si Chen's power must be so pathetic that the machine couldn't even register it. Some of them started leaving, losing interest. Jiang Jian scoffed and said that anyone still waiting was trash. Since their squad was already full, there was no reason to stay. Gong Ting agreed calmly and told him to call the rest of the team so they could finally leave. But just as they were about to turn away, the screen suddenly lit up. Everyone froze. The result displayed made the entire hall go silent. Si Chen, high D rank. Shock spread instantly. His dorm mates and the surrounding students stood there with their mouths wide open, unable to believe what they were seeing. Malong exploded in excitement, shouting at the top of his lungs that he had told everyone. Si Chen was strong, and now he had proven it. On the other side, Gong Ting and Zhang Jian were stunned. They had not expected Si Chen to reach high D rank, especially not under these circumstances. But before anyone could recover, the system suddenly issued a warning. Instability detected. Retest required. Inside the booth, Si Chen understood immediately. His base stats at level 10 were already equivalent to a high D rank. With that realization, he made a decision. He chose to test another power. Right there, inside the booth, he initiated the class change process. Once the transformation was complete, he activated Infernal Death King, his weakest dev class. In the next instant, the screen began flashing violently. Gasps echoed throughout the hall as his rank shifted before everyone's eyes. Z rank, mid-C rank. Chaos erupted. His friends completely lost it, screaming and wondering how his rank had jumped again. Jiang Jian shouted furiously, claiming this was impossible and insisting that the testing machine had to be broken. The teachers fell into panic. They had never seen a rank change mid-assessment in their entire careers, and as they stared at the flashing screen, unsure of what to do next, a terrifying thought crossed their minds. This test might have just awakened something far beyond their understanding. The system failed. Once again, instability was detected, and the demonic heart began to tremble violently, almost as if it were sweating under the pressure of the overwhelming power. Seeing this, Si Chen realized that the result still wasn't final. If the system couldn't handle his current output, then he would simply push it to its absolute limit. Calmly, he decided to activate his other classes to see what the final result would be. This time, he activated Purgatory Rakshasa. The moment the power was released, the demonic heart reacted in pure terror. Cracks spread across its surface as if it were about to explode. At the same time, a dark purple energy surged upward, covering the entire sky above the testing grounds. A suffocating pressure descended. Gong Ting and the others instinctively looked up, their faces filled with disbelief as they wondered what in the world was happening. Si Chen's friends were shaken to the core. One of them muttered that this had to be an omen, that history was being rewritten today. In that moment, they realized something terrifying. Their dorm had given birth to a god-level monster. Suddenly, the potential screen began to glitch violently. The numbers distorted and twisted before finally displaying a warped, golden S that looked completely unnatural. The teachers shouted in shock, wondering aloud whether that even counted as another S-rank potential. Gong Ting stood frozen, completely speechless. His mind refused to process what his eyes were witnessing. Without warning, a danger alert began flashing across the screen, plunging the entire hall into tension and confusion. A second later, the warning changed to a bold red message. System error. The machine started shaking uncontrollably. Then, the screen flickered one last time before revealing a terrifying result. SSS value exceeds system maximum load. At that instant, one student completely lost control and began screaming in panic. Then, boom! The testing machine exploded into countless fragments with a deafening roar. Shockwaves rippled outward as debris scattered across the hall. The teachers shouted that the demonic heart had overloaded and rushed toward the booth without hesitation. Bursting inside, they called out anxiously, asking whether the student inside was still alive. But as one teacher stepped closer, his jaw slowly dropped. He was left utterly speechless. The demonic heart lay on the floor, completely destroyed, cracked and lifeless, as if it had been devoured from the inside. Another teacher muttered in disbelief, wondering whether the machine had simply burned out from being overused that day. Inside the booth, Si Chen frowned slightly. He realized he may have gone too far and accidentally destroyed the heart. But at the same time, he discovered something important. His gluttony power could devour even the core of a machine. Moments later, Si Chen walked out of the testing booth without a single scratch, calm and unharmed. As he stepped out, he decided to test his newly unlocked ability. Activating it quietly, his vision shifted, and suddenly, he could see the true ranks of everyone around him. The realization stunned him. This ability was incredibly convenient and would be invaluable for his future plans. When his gaze landed on Gong Ting, his eyes narrowed slightly. He could tell instantly that the council president had been hiding his true strength as well. With the testing machine destroyed, the teachers had no choice but to suspend the assessment due to the accident. They announced that Si Chen's recorded data would be treated as an error, and that any students who hadn't been tested would have to return the next day. Despite this, Malong and the others celebrated loudly, insisting that no matter what the teachers said, Si Chen was undoubtedly a genius. Suddenly, Jiang Jin stormed forward, shouting angrily. He demanded to know how a loser like Si Chen could possibly reach C rank. He accused him of deliberately breaking the machine and claimed that because of him, the student council's plans would now be delayed. Si Chen grew annoyed. Lightning crackled in his palm as power gathered in his hand, his gaze turning cold. For a brief moment, he wondered whether he should just end this nuisance for good. Before he could act, Gongting stepped forward and stopped him. He calmly told Jiang Jin not to be disrespectful toward their new teammate. Jiang Jin froze, completely stunned. He couldn't comprehend what the president had just said. With a faint smile, Gongting turned to Si Chen and formally invited him to join his squad for the graduation assessment. He confidently stated that if they fought together, they would achieve the highest score in the school's history. On the other side, Malong and the others were utterly flabbergasted. A personal invitation from the student council president was something unheard of. One of Gongting's team members grew upset, pointing out that if Si Chen joined, someone else would have to be removed. The thug angrily questioned what right Si Chen had to join when others couldn't even get in using bribes. However, since the president himself had spoken, the man knew he had no real choice. Swallowing his pride, Jiang Jin forced a smile and welcomed the new member. But to everyone's shock, Si Chen refused the invitation on the spot. Jiang Jin stood completely paralyzed, unable to believe the audacity of what he had just witnessed. Even Gongting was taken aback, his expression turning serious as he stared at Si Chen. Annoyed beyond belief, Jiang Jin shouted that their team was the strongest. But Si Chen simply replied that he didn't care. With a cold, emotionless gaze, he warned them to never bother him again, then turned his back without hesitation. Leaving Jiang Jin burning with rage, Si Chen walked away alongside his friends. The crowd stood in shock. No one could believe that Si Chen had the nerve to reject the student council president outright. Some students began whispering that maybe he was aiming for first place himself. Others grinned, already anticipating the drama that was sure to follow. From a distance, his dorm mates laughed quietly at the bullies' stunned expressions, thinking that Si Chen's attitude was incredibly brave. Gongting, however, calmly stopped his lackey and told him it was fine. He remarked that Si Chen seemed to have plans of his own. As the test officially ended, students slowly dispersed throughout the university courtyard. Director Yuan Long sighed with regret, lamenting that the two hadn't formed a team, as he had hoped to witness a new school record. The mysterious woman beside him smiled faintly and said that this unexpected turn had made things far more interesting. She explained that for someone like Gongting, such a refusal was nothing less than a declaration of war. Nearby, one of the student council members whispered a warning, saying that their president was not someone to be provoked. Jiang Jin, still furious, scoffed and claimed that Si Chen was just being arrogant because of an error in the power test. But Gongting remained silent, deep in thought. He wondered whether the test had truly been wrong, and then swore to himself that no one would ever take his first place. One of his subordinates offered to teach Si Chen a lesson, mocking him as nothing more than an inexperienced newbie. Gongting's gaze immediately turned cold. He glared at the man and asked whether he looked like someone so petty. The subordinate stiffened and quickly backed down. Annoyed, Gongting dismissed the team, saying he wasn't in the mood, and left by himself. As he walked away, he coldly remarked that whatever happened next had nothing to do with him. The goon hesitated at first, but then understood the meaning behind those words. A wicked smile crept onto his face as he confirmed that he understood completely, and that the president would remain uninvolved. 10 minutes later, someone hurried over to inform Jiang Jin that Si Chen had already left the campus. According to what he heard, Si Chen had said he was heading home and hadn't even stayed to eat. Jiang Jin crushed a soda can in his hand, his lips curling into a sinister smile. To him, this was fate siding with him. Outside the university, there would be no rules to protect Si Chen. Meanwhile, Si Chen walked calmly down the street near the university, completely unaware of the thug's plan. His mind was focused on something else, his own goals. He recalled an incident from the past, when an elite guild had discovered a powerful demon inside a lair. The creature, known as Wrath, had wiped out the entire team with a single attack. After that, the monster left the lair and began wreaking havoc across the human world. To locate Wrath's lair, Si Chen had finally devised a foolproof plan. However, to put that plan into action, he needed one thing first, a large amount of money. That was why he headed to the Myathil Monster Exchange, the largest materials trading center of the future. Si Chen knew better than anyone that weapons and equipment were vital for an awakened, and this place was his best opportunity. At the counter, he casually dumped a bundle of monster fangs. The appraiser stared in shock and asked how a mere student could obtain such an item. Si Chen calmly replied that it had dropped from a monster. The appraiser frowned, confused, saying he had never seen it before. However, a nearby female employee immediately recognized the item and explained that it was a Sang and Fang dropped by an E-rank monster. As she began explaining its uses, the appraiser cut her off rudely. He scoffed and said that E-rank items were worthless, boasting that he only dealt with D-rank items and above. He claimed he had no obligation to memorize useless junk. Internally, the appraiser complained that all the good clients had disappeared and that his promotion was still far away. Deciding the task wasn't worth his time, he handed it off to the newcomer instead. He told the girl to handle everything and turned his back, walking away without another word. A short while later, the woman returned and handed Si Chen a briefcase filled with cash. She politely asked whether he needed anything else. Seeing that the amount totaled 18,000, Si Chen nodded to himself. This money would be enough to cover his rent for now. With the first step completed, he said that he said there was one more thing. As Si Chen raised his hand, it began to glow ominously. In the next instant, a giant demonic sword materialized in his grasp, wrapped in a sinister and overwhelming purple aura. The weapon radiated such pressure that the surrounding air seemed to tremble. The female employee's jaw dropped. She stared at the sword in complete shock, unable to believe her eyes. Even though she had never seen such a weapon before, she instinctively felt that it had to be at least B rank, perhaps even A rank. The appraiser suddenly returned, scoffing loudly. He dismissed the idea outright, saying that rank weapons cost millions, and that he had never seen one in his entire life. At that moment, a blue-haired man stepped forward from the side. Calmly, he stated that the weapon was not B rank, nor was it A rank. Hearing this, the appraiser immediately changed his attitude and began sucking up to the newcomer, insisting that a poor student like Si Chen couldn't possibly possess anything valuable. Then the blue-haired man spoke again. He revealed that the sword was an S-rank piece of equipment, forged in the Purgatory lands. The words hit like a thunderbolt. The female employee froze, completely paralyzed. The appraiser screamed in disbelief, his face turning pale as all color drained from it. Without hesitation, the blue-haired man stepped forward and enthusiastically shook Si Chen's hand, welcoming him as an extremely special guest. Moments later, he personally invited Si Chen to the VIP room, assuring him that any request he made would be handled immediately. As he followed, Si Chen allowed a faint smirk to appear on his face. Everything was unfolding exactly as he had planned. The man had finally shown up at the right moment. His name was Qingjai, and he was a key piece in Si Chen's plans. Then, the scene shifts to the VIP room. Inside, the atmosphere is quiet and refined. Qingju sits across from Chen, her posture composed as he calmly asks about the equipment he has brought to sell. After listening to his explanation, he waits for his price. Chen does not hesitate. In a steady voice, he replies, 1 million. The moment the number leaves his mouth, Qingju's composure cracks. Her eyes widen in shock as he looks at him in disbelief. You're only asking for 1 million? He exclaims. Sir, you do understand that even A-rank equipment can sell for millions, right? An S-rank weapon like this would fetch at least tens of millions on the market. If news of this spread, it could cause a stampede. This weapon is that valuable. Hearing her words, Chen's expression does not change. Instead, he speaks again, his tone serious and unwavering. I want to use this S-rank weapon as collateral to get a loan of 1 million, he says. I'll pay it back in 1 month. Qingji freezes, using an S-rank weapon as collateral for a loan. For a brief moment, her mind races. Is this really something a university student would think of? He wonders. It's clear now. He never intended to sell this sword. He plans to reclaim it later and use it himself. This kind of foresight, this calm calculation. He's far wiser than his age, suggests, and to possess such a treasure in the first place. Is he a rich young master who ran away from home, or a hidden prodigy concealing his true strength? No matter which it is, one thing is certain. This man is not ordinary. While Qingju is lost in thought, Chen remains relaxed, leaning back slightly as he quietly enjoys his coffee, as if the conversation holds no pressure for him at all. After a moment, Chen speaks again. I'll repay the principal in full within 1 month, he says calmly, and I'll pay an additional 10% interest the following month. How does that sound? Qingju looks at him deeply before finally speaking. Shaoli, could you please step outside for a moment? Shaoli nods and exits the room, closing the door behind her. The VIP room grows even quieter, leaving only the two of them inside. At that moment, Qingju finally speaks, or continue writing what Qingju says next in the same polished style. If I'm not mistaken, Qingju says slowly, his gaze steady. The school you attend is National Awakener University, correct? And the seniors there are about to graduate. After silently piecing together all the information and finishing his calculations, Qingju looks at Chen once more and speaks with certainty. To my knowledge, National Awakener University holds an annual graduation examination. This year's examination is scheduled to take place exactly 1 month from now, and the prize awarded to first place is precisely 1 million. He pauses, letting the weight of his words sink in. That amount aligns perfectly with the loan you're requesting, both in sum and in timing. If I had to make an educated guess, you're confident that you'll secure first place in that examination, aren't you? The moment those words fall, the atmosphere in the room changes. A sharp, oppressive aura erupts from Chen's body. His killing intent surges uncontrollably. filling the VIP room like a suffocating pressure. At the same time, his eyes glow a deep crimson, and the anger on his face is unmistakable, no longer hidden behind calm indifference. Qingji rises from his seat without hesitation and calmly steps forward, unfazed by the overwhelming intent pressing down on him. You could have simply waited 1 month and collected the prize money, he says evenly. Yet instead, you're urgently offering a weapon of this caliber as collateral for a loan. His voice remains composed, analytical. That tells me you're in desperate need of money, right now, and no rational person would choose such a risky option unless they had no other choice. Unless this truly was your last resort. He stops directly in front of Chen. If that's the case, Qingji meets Chen's burning gaze and speaks decisively. Then I can loan you 1.5 million in cash, on the spot. 0 interest for 1 full month. He extends his hand toward Chen, a faint smile forming on his lips. Consider this the beginning of a friendship between us. Chen is completely stunned. For the first time since entering the VIP room, his composure cracks. He stares at Qingji, shock written plainly across his face, unable to immediately process what he has just heard. At that moment, Qingji flicks his eyes slightly, his smile deepening as he adds, "And rest assured, everything discussed here today will remain strictly confidential. And remember," Qingji adds with a cordial smile, "if you have any trading needs in the future, please consider our exchange as your first choice. I'll personally ensure you receive the best possible deal. What do you say?" Hearing this, Chen does not respond immediately. Instead, he reflects silently. With only a few scattered details, he was able to accurately infer my situation and my needs. Impressive, Chen thinks to himself. And rather than exploiting my predicament once he figured it out, he chose to offer even better terms for the sake of a long-term partnership. No wonder Qingji is destined to turn the Mithril Exchange into the world's premier exchange. If I want to eliminate Wrath, relying on my own strength alone won't be enough. I'll need trustworthy allies, and those allies must be people like him. With that decision made, Chen reaches forward. The two of them shake hands, and Chen presses his seal onto the contract paper, leaving behind a clear and binding mark. In the next instant, the transaction is completed. The funds are transferred directly into Chen's account, and a notification vibrates on his phone, confirming the arrival of the money. Holding up the contract, Qingji looks at Chen and says with a satisfied nod, "The magic contract is complete. The funds have already been transferred to your account." After a brief pause, curiosity flickers in his eyes. "By the way," he continues, "since you're using such an extraordinary weapon as collateral, what are you planning to use for the graduation examination?" He gestures lightly with one hand. "If you'd like, I can lend you some equipment. We don't currently have any S-rank items available, but we do have a wide selection of high-rank gear, A-rank, and even some excellent B-rank equipment." Chen listens calmly, then shakes his head. "No need," he replies. Then without another word, he casually reveals another weapon. An aura just as terrifying, just as overwhelming fills the room once again as an S-rank weapon appears in his hand. Looking at Qingji, Chen says evenly, "I've still got another weapon, just like the one I gave up." Seeing this, both Qingji and his assistant are completely dumbfounded. Their eyes nearly pop out of their sockets as the shock overwhelms them. "Holy shit!" they blurt out almost simultaneously. Chen does not linger. He calmly turns and begins to leave, his steps unhurried. Watching the sheer level of shock he has left behind, Qingji quickly regains his composure and calls out after him, still clearly shaken. "There truly are so many talented youths these days. Please take care, sir." As soon as Chen disappears from sight, Qingji turns sharply toward his assistant. "Thankfully, Xiaoli continued assisting such an important client," he says decisively. "You're promoted to supervisor, effective immediately." Xiaoli freezes for a moment before joy floods her face. She can barely contain her excitement. Meanwhile, the other assistant's expression darkens, resentment clearly written across his features. Just as the matter seems settled, Chen suddenly stops. "Oh," he says casually, turning back slightly. "I just remembered. I need to buy something here." The scene shifts. A taxi rolls to a stop in front of a large, aging building. The engine idles as Chen steps out and lifts his gaze upward. At the top of the building, bold letters are written, "Kangcheng County, Long-Distance Bus Terminal." The moment Chen sees the sign, something stirs deep within him. Standing there, fragments of memories from his previous life come rushing back. Triggered by the familiar sight, his expression grows distant as he begins to recall the past. "In my last life," Chen narrates quietly, "my family struggled financially for a long time. Back then, I had already graduated, but I still hadn't awakened. No guild was willing to take me in." Images flash through his mind. Endless rejection, exhaustion, desperation. "I scrambled to take whatever odd jobs I could find," he continues. "Yet even then, I could barely manage to scrape together enough money for rent." A single number surfaces in his memory, etched deeply into his mind. Remaining balance, $105.60. Uni and I had to live extremely frugally just to survive. At that time, Chen had already reached the brink, with almost nothing left to his name. Worry weighed heavily on him day after day, leaving him restless and exhausted. It was during that period that his sister suddenly spoke up. "I got a tutoring job," she said softly. "I'll be joining it soon." Not long after, a letter appeared in his memory. Printed clearly on the envelope were the words, International Central Art Institute, Admissions. Acceptance letter. Student, Si Chen. For a brief moment, hope flickered. But before it could fully bloom, Yoon tore the letter apart with trembling hands. I guess I got in after all, she said, forcing a smile. But it's too far away, and I want to stay near my big brother. Her words struck Chen like a blade. She was so afraid of adding more financial burden to the family, Chen narrates quietly, that my little sister gave up on her dream school. The scene shifts back to the present. Chen snaps out of his memories, the noise of the bus terminal slowly returning to his ears. He looks around, scanning the area instinctively. It's getting pretty late, he thinks. Yuni should have gotten off the bus by now. Just then, a familiar voice rings out from behind him. Bro! Before Chen can turn around, the voice continues, loud and exasperated. Bro, how many times have I told you? If you're picking someone up, you're supposed to wait at the exit, not the entrance. There's a brief pause, followed by a sigh full of frustration. We're broke again after paying this month's rent, and that person is none other than Si Chen, Chen's younger sister. As Chen looks at her, he realizes that she is still so small. The sight of her standing there, safe and unharmed, makes his chest tighten. Seeing her again like this fills him with an overwhelming sense of joy, one that he can barely contain. Yun tilts her head and calls out to him impatiently. Big bro! Come give me a hand with this luggage. Big bro? She frowns when he doesn't move. Why are you just standing there like a dummy? What's wrong with you, big brother? In the very next moment, Chen suddenly steps forward and pulls Yun into a tight embrace. The force of the hug catches her completely off guard. In his last life, Chen had been powerless, unable to protect her, unable to give her anything, unable to stop her from sacrificing her dreams for his sake. But this time was different. This time, he swears to himself that he will do everything for her. Emotion surges uncontrollably within him. Yun stiffens in his arms, utterly stunned by his behavior. After a long moment, Chen finally speaks, his voice low and trembling. It's been 7 years since I've been able to see you, Yuni. He calls her by her nickname without realizing it. But Yun immediately pushes him away, her face turning red as she shouts, Bro! She glares at him fiercely. Are you trying to choke me to death? She straightens her clothes and begins scolding him without mercy. You've been acting really weird these past couple of days. Did you get rejected by a girl or something? With a huff, she throws her bag toward him. Hurry up! Let's go home. Let's go home. Chen and Yun walk side by side toward their home. Along the way, Chen talks casually about his studies, about the preparation he's done for his exams, the effort he's put in, and how hard he's been working recently. He keeps his tone light, as if everything is perfectly normal. As he listens to his own words, Chen glances at his sister and thinks quietly to himself, this time, you won't have to suffer because of me. Hearing him speak with such confidence and determination, Yun's mood visibly brightens. She listens with a smile, clearly reassured by her brother's words. Her steps light as they walk together. Just then the scene cuts. A narrow, dimly lit alley comes into view. Several rough-looking men are gathered there, their figures lurking in the shadows. One of them speaks in a low voice. This is definitely the route that punk Si Chen takes to get home. The speaker steps forward, his face twisting with hatred. It is none other than Jiang Jian. Go hide, he orders coldly. The moment he shows up, we'll jump him. I'll make sure he learns what happens when you mess with me. As he speaks, fury burns in his eyes, anger born from their last encounter. An encounter whose outcome is already known all too well. Just then, one of the guys quietly speaks up to Jiang Jian, his voice trembling slightly despite his attempt at caution. Boss, since so many student council members are here, what if things go too far? Jiang Jian's expression hardens instantly, his icy glare slicing through the air. His voice drops sharp and dangerous like steel on stone. I was only planning to teach him a small lesson, but that bastard's attitude really pisses me off. A low-tier E-rank piece of trash actually thinks he's a C-rank now? That garbage doesn't even know who he's dealing with. At that exact moment, Chen's words reverberate in Jiang Jian's mind, chilling him to the bone. You're too loud. Don't bother me ever again. The memory snaps something inside him, a spark igniting a storm he can no longer control. Jiang Jian's anger explodes, a torrent of raw fury as he turns toward his companions. His voice shakes with a mix of rage and venom. When the time comes, you better leave me a piece. I'm going to destroy him. After I'm done with him, he won't even be able to attend the graduation in 2 weeks. Slowly, deliberately, he pulls out a knife, his eyes glinting with cold, unwavering confidence. I'm one of the best cloud-type assassins in the entire school. Just wait till I'm done with you, you poser piece of shit. The tension freezes the air. Every heartbeat echoes in the silence. The next scene opens to a quieter, heavier atmosphere. Chen sits beside Si Chen, drinks in hand, the world outside feeling distant and muted. She watches him for a while, her eyes searching, then finally speaks, her voice soft but probing. Hey, big bro. You've been acting pretty weird these past few days, Si Chen says casually, though a hint of concern threads through her tone. Are you stressed about the graduation exam? Chen remains silent. His quiet presence speaks volumes, an unspoken storm behind calm eyes. Seeing his silence, Si Chen tilts her head, curiosity and amusement flickering across her face. Her tone takes on a teasing lilt. I mean, a simpleton like you doesn't usually get so caught up in his emotions. Chen smiles faintly but does not reply. Si studies him for a moment longer, her expression softening. Her voice drops, more sincere now. Big bro, no matter what happens, you have to pull yourself together. Weren't you always the one telling me that life is a long journey, and that opportunities will come sooner or later? So believe in yourself. A gentle reminder of hope amidst the storm brewing in Chen's mind. The two of them continue walking, side by side, stepping into the same narrow alley as before. As they move forward, Si begins softly humming her favorite song. The melody is light, carefree, a small defiance against the weight of their world. Chen listens quietly, letting the sound wash over him. A brief moment of calm in the gathering storm. Chen walks beside her in silence, his steps steady while his thoughts slowly drift away. Yenny's really sharp. She noticed something was off the moment we met. She still doesn't know that I've awakened. So, in her eyes, nothing has changed. We're probably still struggling for money, still barely holding things together. After a brief pause, Chen finally speaks, his voice calm and reassuring. I promise I'm okay, Yenny. But the moment the words leave his mouth, Si-Yun lowers her gaze slightly, her expression thoughtful as she speaks only to herself. He's still trying to deny it. Is it because of his male pride? Men really do start building emotional walls as they grow older. She snorts inwardly, a trace of smug amusement rising in her chest. Looks like that book was right after all. Guess you're getting old, big bro. They continue walking deeper into the alley, their footsteps echoing softly between the narrow walls. Unbeknownst to them, someone is watching from behind. A shadow moves quietly, maintaining distance, following their every step with practiced patience. The scene shifts. Several figures gather within the darkness, their eyes fixed firmly on Chen. One of the men leans toward Jiang Jian and murmurs in a low voice, "Boss, that guy's got a girl with him." The moment Jiang Jian hears that, his lips curl into a twisted grin. "This is perfect," he says, unable to hide his delight. "This alley doesn't have any cameras." He glances around, his excitement bubbling over as he addresses the others. "Guys, today's our lucky day." At the same time, Chen, still walking calmly beside his little sister, senses everything. The hostile gaze is locked onto him, the unmistakable killing intent, the suffocating, terrifying energy slowly creeping closer from behind. His expression doesn't change, but a cold fury surges within his chest. It's those student council bastards. They've really got some nerve coming after me here. Without slowing his pace, Chen casually reaches into his pocket. He pulls out his earbuds and with deliberate gentleness, places them over Si-Yun's ears. Whatever was about to happen, she wouldn't hear a single sound of it. Turning to her, Chen speaks softly, almost tenderly. "Yuni, I've been really into this song lately. I keep playing it on repeat. Here, listen." Si-Yun blinks in surprise, her head tilting slightly. Big bro? Since when did you start listening to music?" At the same time, her mind drifts. Well, I guess music reflects a person's mental state. Maybe I can understand my big bro better by listening. Chen doesn't answer. His silence is deliberate. Instead, he slowly turns back toward the figures trailing them. The moment he does, the atmosphere shifts. His presence expands outward, an invisible, crushing weight that presses against the very air. The color of his eyes deepens into something cold and inhuman, sharp and unrelenting, as his gaze sweeps over Jiang Jian's entire group. Chen activates his eye-based ability. In an instant, their levels, conditions, and mental states are laid bare to him, stripped of pretense or secrecy. Meanwhile, Si-Yun remains blissfully unaware, absorbed in the music. The melody floods her senses, clear, powerful, and strangely comforting. It feels impossibly good, as if it could calm the world itself. Back in the alley, Jiang Jian's team begins to move. One by one, they step forward, their confidence unshaken. Moments later, Jiang Jian himself advances, his swagger radiating arrogance. Chen steps forward as well. His voice is calm, even gentle, but every word carries the weight of unspoken history and unyielding resolve. "In my last life, in the year 2160, I lost my final family member. It wasn't until 2167 that I was reborn, that I was given a chance to come back. And only then was I able to see my little sister again." As he speaks, thunder gathers around him, crackling and snapping in violent arcs that surge from his body. The alley fills with oppressive energy, thick and overwhelming. Every bolt of lightning a silent declaration of his fury. Inside his mind, Chen's thoughts roar, unrestrained. "This is the first time in 7 years that I've been reunited with my family. How dare you come here and ruin this moment?" On the other side, Jiang Jian's entire team charges forward, rushing from every direction. But before a single foot can land, a burst of thunder erupts beneath Chen's feet. In a blinding flash of lightning, he vanishes. The next instant, he reappears beside them, impossibly fast. Chen's leg lashes out with terrifying force. Boom! One of the men is lifted clean off the ground, his body thrown backward before crashing near his companions with a bone-rattling impact. The sound echoes through the alley like a gunshot. Everyone freezes. Shock spreads across their faces as their minds struggle to process the impossible. Meanwhile, in her own world of music, Si-Yun continues humming along, blissfully unaware of the chaos and devastation unfolding just a few steps behind her. Chen clenches his fist, and thunder coils tightly around it, crackling with violent energy. The very air seems to vibrate in response. Without hesitation, he surges forward, moving like a storm unleashed, and strikes at the nearest man. Panic floods the man's eyes. He throws his arms up instinctively to block, but the terror in his gaze betrays him. He has already seen the impossible. One person falls, then the second, then the third. Each one drops in the same ruthless, unrelenting way, unable to resist, unable to even react. Chen doesn't slow. He keeps walking forward, thunder roaring around him like a living entity, crackling with lethal energy, closing the distance to the remaining few. Suddenly, one desperate man lunges at him, swinging his fist in a last-ditch attempt. Chen catches the punch instantly, his grip like iron. A sharp knee strike follows. Crack! The man's bone shatters under the impact. A scream of agony tears through the alley, echoing off the walls. Before the sound can even fade, Chen's fist slams into the man's face. The force lifts him off his feet, sending him hurtling through the air before he crashes hard into the ground. Far from his companions, Zhang Jian watches in horror. His face pales, cold sweat streaming down his forehead as panic sinks in like ice through his veins. Holy shit! What the hell is wrong with that guy? How can he be this strong? His confidence, once unshakable, crumbles completely as Chen continues advancing. Thunder coils around him like a living armor, his eyes glowing with deadly intent, each step radiating raw, inhuman power. Only a handful of people remain now. Chen steps toward the first of them, and the sheer presence, the oppressive energy, makes their legs tremble uncontrollably. The second one falls almost immediately, overcome by both fear and force. And then, after knocking both of them unconscious, Chen reaches the last man standing, Zhang Jian. Zhang Jian freezes. His mind is a storm of disbelief and terror. For the first time, Zhang Jian feels something he's never felt before. True, paralyzing fear. Fear grips Zhang Jian like never before. Forcing himself to stand tall, he shouts, his voice trembling despite his effort to sound fierce. I'm the strongest cloud-type assassin. You motherfucker, you really think you can beat me? Panic and pride collide as he unleashes his ability at full power, cloud energy surging wildly around him. But Chen doesn't flinch. A single devastating punch knocks the knife clean out of Zhang Jian's hand, sending him flying backward into the alley wall. Chen steps forward instantly, landing another merciless blow mid-air. Blood explodes from Zhang Jian's mouth, teeth shatter, and his body crashes to the ground with a sickening thud. Barely conscious, his vision swimming, he sees Chen standing over him, not like a human, but like a demon. Chen's voice cuts through the air, cold and merciless. I clearly told you to never bother me ever again. Which part of that did you not understand? Thunder coils violently around him, and his eyes, once cold, now burn a deep, terrifying red as his rage reaches its peak. Zhang Jian thought to himself, my ribs are all broken. Ugh. And both of my legs are numb. His rank assessment was real. Si Chen really isn't a D rank. His condition was extremely bad. Blood was flowing from his mouth. And right there on the spot, he began crying and apologizing in a broken voice. After hearing his useless begging, Chen suddenly grabbed him by the collar and pulled him closer. In a frighteningly cold tone, he said, shut up. If you make a sound, I'll kill you. As he spoke, he pressed a knife right up to Zhang Jian's face. Seeing this, Zhang Jian thought in terror. His eyes aren't lying. He really will kill me. He's clearly just a student. So why does he have such an intense killing intent? What the hell has he been through? Then Chen continued coldly. You better remember every single word that I'm about to say. The next instant, he violently slammed Zhang Jian into the snake-patterned wall. The impact was so brutal that cracks spread across the wall behind him. Looking down at him with icy eyes, Chen threatened, all of you pieces of trash can rot for all I care, but you better not bother me ever again. And if you guys ever try to harm my sister, no. If you even appear in front of her, then one by one. Zhang Jian bit the inside of his mouth, and blood seeped out. His condition was already terrible, and now he was completely terrified. Chen continued mercilessly. Without a second thought, I'll make each of you disappear permanently. Got it? On the other side, Zhang Jian could only scream in agony, overwhelmed by unbearable pain and fear. After leaving Zhang Jian in that miserable state, Chen turned around and began to walk away. The moment he took his eyes off him, Zhang Jian's body finally gave out and collapsed right there on the spot. Completely powerless, his broken body unable to endure anymore. Meanwhile, on the other side, the song was still playing on Zhou Yun's phone. Listening to it, she thought to herself, it feels so lonely. Why does this song make me want to cry? It's only been a few days since we last saw each other, but he's acting like he's gone through so much. How can you possibly be this lonely? Haven't you always had me by your side? As these thoughts filled her heart, her emotions finally overflowed, and she slowly began to cry. Just then, she turned around and said softly, Big bro! Aren't you taking this joke a little too far? But before she could say anything else, Chen had already come up behind her. In his hand was a small box, a gift meant for her. Seeing this, Yun was completely stunned. Chen looked at her and said gently, Yuni, I got this for you. The smile on his face made it clear that he had bought it from the exchange hall. When Yoon saw what was inside, her eyes widened in shock and joy. Is this a magic holographic pen? It's the latest style from Drag. This costs over 10,000. Where did you get the money for it? Seeing his sister so happy made Chen truly happy as well. Deep inside, he thought, in my last life, I failed to protect you. At the same time, Yoon was thinking to herself, maybe we should just return this. It's way too expensive. I don't like it that much. But Chen continued in his heart. I couldn't even protect your dream in this life. I'll protect everything about you. As he stood there, he quietly hid his blood-stained hand behind his back so she wouldn't notice anything. At the same time, the scene shifted to Zhang Jian and his companions, who were all in a terrible condition, lying broken and miserable, paying the price for their actions. Then the scene shifted again, this time to Chen's home. After returning, Yoon excitedly used the magic pen and drew a fish in the air. A beautiful holographic image appeared, floating before her eyes. She turned to her brother in amazement and said, "Wow, I can't believe it really works. It can draw holographic images in the air." Chen, who was eating egg noodles, smiled and replied, "As long as you like it, Yuni." Then he added proudly, "Yuni's fried egg noodles are seriously the best." But Yoon suddenly looked worried and said, "But big bro, we still have to pay the rent. And you're just throwing money away like this." Chen smiled and said to his sister, "I've already paid this year's rent in full." Hearing this, Yoon was stunned. "What?" Chen then explained casually, "Well, I started a small business with a friend and we made some money, so..." Listening to him, Yoon couldn't help but think to herself, "Bro, you suck at lying. You're being way too suspicious. Okay, so now you're keeping secrets from me, but it's been ages since I've seen such a happy smile on my brother." She looked at his face carefully. That smile was lighter, warmer, and more genuine than anything she had seen in a long time. In the end, she didn't press him any further. Instead, she gently placed her hand on his shoulder and said softly, "Anyways, no matter what happens, big bro, just make sure you don't push yourself too hard." Chen heard his sister's words, looked at her, and smiled gently in response. At the same time, a cold voice was heard elsewhere, calmly reporting shocking news. Zhang Jian sustained severe injuries. Over 60% of his body was fractured. Even the top doctors wouldn't be able to heal him in just 1 month. I can't believe he actually picked a fight with Si Chen. Still, to be beaten to this state. The one saying this was none other than Gong Ting, the president of the school council. Standing beside him, the vice president Ling Yu spoke indifferently. "Looks like he'll have to miss the graduation exam." Hearing this, Gong Ting showed no sympathy at all and replied coldly, "It doesn't matter. My team will be better off without any deadweights." Just then, another man entered the room. He was none other than Gong Xian, director of career services at National Awakener University. In a serious tone, he said, "It's that Si Chen again. I have confirmed the internal results of the last ranking assessment. He is indeed C rank. He's the only student in the entire school with a higher rank than yours." Hearing this, Gong Ting was stunned, completely shocked by the news. Gong Xuan then continued, "Your father has invited the vice chairman of the alliance this time to personally inspect your performance at the graduation examination. Be sure not to allow anyone else to steal your limelight. And should all else fail, I can only ask you, niece, to fill the vacancy left in Gong Ting's team. If that were to happen..." Before he could finish, Gong Ting spoke confidently. "Sir, you're overthinking things. Do you really think I used my full abilities during the ranking assessment? Rest assured, on the day of the combat examination, I will be sure to make everyone know who the strongest is." The meaning behind his words was clear. He was far from normal, and what he truly possessed would only be revealed during the examination itself. The scene then shifted. 11:00 p.m., National Awakener University, men's dormitory. We see Chen taking a shower. As the warm water flowed over him in the shower, Chen began to think about his training and everything he had done today. "I've completed today's 100-kilometer run with weights. Now that the money issue has been solved, everything else is going well. I should be able to start my real plan after graduation. The next step is to secure the 1 million yuan prize money at the graduation examination and pay back my loan from Qing Zhi. I have to make sure I honor my agreement with Qing Zhi. After all, there will be a lot of things I'll need from him in the future. There's less than a month left until the examination. I need to level up a couple more times." After finishing these thoughts, he slowly closed his eyes. Once again, the familiar system screen appeared before him, loading into view. Glutton System. Initiate. In the next instant, he returned to the same place he had entered back in the 4th chapter. But this time was different. Now he understood this world far better than before. With steady steps, he began walking toward the throne ahead. At the same time, he recalled the results of his last assessment. The last assessment results showed that my weakest class, Gravehound King, is a C rank. The official rank of my strongest class, Abyssal Fiend, wouldn't display, even though I currently can't use it to its full potential. Abyssal Fiend is an S rank, and I'm not even sure how much more power this class truly has. As for my remaining 2 classes, their exact ranks are still unknown. Just then, the mysterious key that had been mentioned before appeared in front of him once more. Chen narrowed his eyes and said calmly, Let's put it to the test today. Suddenly, a massive door like a gigantic portal opened before him. Violent waves of energy poured out from within, filling the space with an overwhelming pressure. Yet Chen did not hesitate. He stepped forward toward it. As he walked, he muttered to himself, "What's inside the Tower of Darkness? What kind of scene is waiting for me?" At last, he crossed the threshold and entered the Tower of Darkness, and the final words echoed in the empty space before him. "This place is—" As soon as Chen arrives at that place, a cold, emotionless voice echoes through the surroundings. "Fallen star wastes." Chen is instantly shaken to his core. An immense and crushing pressure descends upon his body, so overwhelming that his legs give out and he drops straight to his knees. His breathing turns heavy as he struggles to stay upright. Gritting his teeth, he mutters, "The gravity here, it's insanely exaggerated. The surface gravity of the fallen star wastes is approximately 10 times normal. The door I entered through has vanished. It seems the only way to reopen it is to eliminate this floor's boss. In this environment, I can unleash at most 30% of my strength. I need to adapt to this place as quickly as possible." At that moment, a massive figure appears before him. A ferocious monster stands silently, radiating an oppressive aura, and its information is displayed in front of Chen, Phantom Lion B Star Warrior. Without hesitation, Chen switches his class, and the system's voice resounds clearly. Class, switch complete. His new status unfolds before his eyes. LV, 10 Si Chen, Lightning Assassin. Terrifying arcs of lightning burst violently from his body, crackling through the heavy air as his presence sharpens. Locking his gaze onto the monster, Chen speaks coldly, "So the enemy of this floor is you." In the next instant, Chen launches himself forward and charges at the Phantom Lion. However, because he has yet to adapt to the extreme gravity of this place, his movements are far slower than usual. He barely manages to evade the monster's counterattack, twisting his body aside with extreme difficulty. Forcing himself onward, Chen gathers lightning into his weapon and strikes again, shouting, "My body feels so heavy. I must end this quickly." In a flash, his weapon pierces deep into the monster's body. Immediately, a system notification appears. Miss Vital hit failed, paralysis. Failed. Chen's expression. Seeing this, Chen clicks his tongue in frustration and says, "I missed. The high gravity has severely impacted my speed and my attack precision." The monster immediately counterattacks, grabbing Chen and slamming him violently from above straight down into the ground. Gritting his teeth as he endures the impact, Chen realizes the harsh truth and mutters, "The assassin class has lost almost all its advantages." He raises his eyes toward the monster. Narrowing his gaze, Chen thinks aloud, "But this guy is moving effortlessly. Is this the true strength level of monsters inside the Purgatory Magic Tower?" Just as the monster clenches its chains again and prepares to strike, an overwhelming surge of deep purple energy erupts from Chen's body. At the same moment, a system window flashes before him. Class switch complete. Level Zen Si Chen, Purgatory Rakshasa. Chen's eyes burn with resolve as he declares, "Then I'll switch to Purgatory." Rakshasa, a terrifying aura explodes outward from his body, far denser and heavier than before. His raw strength skyrockets, and along with it, his stamina increases by 3 to 4 times. Feeling the drastic change, Chen calmly explains, "Different classes have different core advantages. Close quarters combat must rely on the warrior class, with its high strength and stamina bonuses." The monster lunges at Chen, attempting to overwhelm him in close combat, but its attacks have almost no effect. Instead, Chen grabs the chain with brute force and slams the monster violently into the ground. His voice echoes with authority as he roars, "Gravity stacking to the max! Increase downward impact force to the limit." The gravity in the area intensifies further, layer by layer, crushing everything beneath it. Chen clenches his fist and declares, "In an environment that already has extreme gravity, the power of my punch is amplified by a full 60 times. The monster's eyes widen in shock as Chen's fist descends. A blinding glow erupts in all directions, swallowing the battlefield in light. With absolute resolve, Chen shouts, "Don't even think about stopping me." A massive explosion follows, and the surrounding area is torn apart under the overwhelming force, the ground collapsing and shattering under the impact. Suddenly, another system window appears. Star Warrior, Tri-Phase Gravity Calamity, Super Heavy Mode. Under the terrifying pressure of this gravity, Chen collapses to the ground, completely exhausted. He can no longer move his body, but the monster has already been slain. The system announces EXP plus 12,000. Level up, LV 11 Si Chen. Lying on the ground, Chen looks upward and reflects quietly. Every star on the card represents a multiplier of stats. The more stars a class has, the higher the strength after class change. The Purgatory Rakshasa has more stars, so the overall amplification is far greater. Its rank after class change should be higher than Lightning Assassin. But even so, just dealing with a B rank, monster took everything I had. His thoughts shift as confusion creeps in. That reminds me, why didn't the system show the devourable mark after killing it this time? And where's the gate to the next floor? At that moment, the ground begins to tremble slightly. Chen turns his head and sees another portal opening nearby. Within moments, the portal expands rapidly, growing massive, and countless eyes emerge from within, staring directly at him. Chen's heart sinks as he thinks, could it be that the real Lord hasn't appeared yet? The one I just killed with all my strength. Before he can finish the thought, numerous monsters pour out of the portal, rushing toward Chen with killing intent. Staring at the horrifying scene, Chen mutters in disbelief, "That was just a small mob?" In the next instant, all the monsters charge at him together, brutally attacking and leaving Chen in an extremely dire condition. Then Chen speaks, his voice heavy with realization. Only at this moment did I understand the true meaning of the Purgatory Rakshasa's words. Once the door opens, what welcomes you will be endless. Pain, the phantom lion. Minions swarm him without mercy, launching relentless attacks upon his body. Their assaults are so savage and unceasing that, within moments, Chen's body is utterly destroyed. Blood covers his face, streaming down relentlessly, and terror fills his eyes as his consciousness begins to fade. In that abyss of suffering, a mysterious voice echoes within him, whispering that he must acquire all of these things, no matter the cost. Suddenly, Chen's eyes snap open. He finds himself lying on his bed in his dorm room, his entire body trembling violently. Cold sweat drenches him as he gasps for breath. Clutching the sheets beneath him, he mutters hoarsely, muscles tearing, skin separating from bone. The pain in my dreams, it was all incomparably real. His hands shake as he slowly steadies his breathing, his gaze hardening with determination. To become stronger, there are no shortcuts. This lonely and arduous road of purgatory has only just begun. The scene shifts, and we are informed that the date is May 20th, 2157, Friday. National Awakener University, Grand Auditorium. Inside the massive hall, all the teachers and students are gathered together. The atmosphere is lively and tense, filled with anticipation. Among the crowd, several students whisper excitedly to one another. "Hey, did you guys hear? They say for this graduation combat assessment, the higher-ups of the Guild Alliance are coming to watch live." No wonder the rules for this year's assessment have changed. In previous years, there were no minimum requirements for team size or rank. But this time, every team must have at least 5 members. And at least one of them must be high E rank or above. Another student tilts their head thoughtfully and says, is this change meant to improve the entertainment value? Someone else shrugs. Who knows? At that moment, an inspector steps forward and announces loudly, "The rank information of all students in this batch has already been sent to everyone's wristbands. Please check your wristbands and complete your team formation as soon as possible." Instantly, system windows appear before everyone, displaying their rankings clearly. Murmurs spread throughout the auditorium as students begin checking their status. Chen's friends stare at his ranking in disbelief, their eyes widening in shock. One of them blurts out, "Something's wrong!" Displayed clearly on the screen is Si Chen, low E rank. His friend turns toward him, utterly stunned, and says, "Si Chen, how can you be only low E rank?" Chen himself is stunned when he sees the result. For a brief moment, his mind goes blank as he stares at the ranking displayed on his wristband. Around him, whispers immediately erupt. Some girls glance at Chen in disbelief and murmur among themselves, "Huh? Didn't Si Chen's test show C rank before? How did it turn into low E rank?" Their confusion quickly spreads through the crowd, drawing even more attention toward him. Several boys join the discussion, their voices filled with mockery and certainty. So the demon heart really was broken back. Then, one of them lets out a sigh and says bitterly, "I was thinking that since I couldn't get into President Gong Ting's team, I'd team up with Si Chen instead, but I didn't expect him to be just a low E rank." Another sneers and adds, "Great. Now surely no one will want to team up with him. The graduation assessment is way too important. Who would want to carry a few low-level dead weights?" Someone else laughs softly and says, "That kid Si Chen even refused Gong Ting's invitation back then. He must be regretting it to death now." From the side, an instructor watches the scene unfold, his gaze cold as it lands on Gong Ting. With a faint, mocking smile, he speaks under his breath, "My disappointing nephew, when will you learn how to truly utilize power and human nature?" His eyes narrow as he continues, "Let Uncle teach you a lesson." It becomes clear that this entire situation has been deliberately orchestrated by him. With quiet confidence, he adds, "Your opponents won't even have the qualification to compete." Then a voice suddenly rang out across the area. "Students, please hurry and form your teams." At those words, a huge number of students immediately rushed forward, all moving toward the same person while shouting excitedly, "President Gong Ting! President Gong Ting!" They crowded around Gong Ting, pushing forward desperately. As they reached him, students began pleading one after another. "Please let me join your team! Pick me! Pick me! Pick me! President! I've been in the student council for 3 years. Definitely won't drag you down. My healer class will surely be a great help to the team. President, let me be your dog." Just then, the person sitting beside Gong Ting suddenly stood up. Raising his voice sharply, he shouted at everyone around them, "Hey, too loud! Get back, all of you! We can only add one more person at most." Half an hour later, everyone could be seen forming teams using their wristwatches. The moment team members brought their hands together, an IG notification popped up. Team formed. All around them, voices rang out as teams were completed. Teammates, good luck on the assessment. Good luck. Meanwhile, Chen's friend spoke in a gloomy tone. We asked around several times. No one wants to join us. Another person added anxiously. We only have 4 people so far. Don't tell me we won't even be able to participate in the graduation assessment. Chen's friend spoke again, his expression troubled. This is too strange. How could Si Chen's performance result be the lowest rank? Registration requires at least 5 people, and at least 1 high E rank. It feels like they're deliberately targeting our dorm. At that moment, Chen spoke calmly but seriously. The graduation combat assessment is everyone's only chance to prove their worth. Only by getting a high score with your team can you secure good employment prospects. In the final assessment, the number of monsters in the Devil's Cave will be determined by the number of team members. It's not that having more people automatically makes it easier to score high. He paused briefly before continuing. So even if they can't squeeze into a strong team like Gongting's, no one is willing to group up with low-ranked people. The 3 lowest low E ranks in the entire school are all in our dorm. Ma Long, low E rank. Xiang Yu, low E rank. Chen, low E rank. If this goes on... Just then, another student suddenly called out loudly. Hey, Zhang Zuo, we're only missing 1 person. Come join our team. Surely you don't want to group up with those 3 low E rank trash from your dorm, right? Otherwise, you might not even qualify for the graduation assessment. Hearing this, Chen began thinking silently to himself. If this goes on, the 3 of us low E ranks are very likely to be abandoned by everyone, and eventually lose our qualification to compete. Just then, Zhang Zuo spoke up and addressed them calmly. Sorry. Our dorm agreed a long time ago to form a team together. The moment he said this, all of his dorm mates were stunned. They stared at him in disbelief as he continued firmly. I won't abandon my roommates. Hearing that, the other team members stepped forward with irritated expressions. Suit yourself. We only asked you to fill the numbers anyway. Rejecting us? You really don't know what's good for you. Shangzu replied coldly, his gaze steady. Don't look down on people. At that moment, Ma Long glanced at the screen and spoke with clear anxiety. Almost everyone has finished forming teams. There are barely any high E ranks left now. We're clearly just missing 1 person. But no one is willing to come. Chen, who was slowly beginning to understand what was really happening here, lifted his gaze. His eyes landed on a figure nearby, Gong Xuan, the director of the employment office. Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and thought to himself, same surname as Gongting, looks like he's also from the Gong family. Changing such important graduation assessment rules on a whim, and deliberately tampering with my true rank so others won't team up with me. Does he think I'm a threat to Gongting? People with power really do whatever they want. His expression hardened. But I am definitely participating in this graduation assessment. At that moment, another system notification appeared before his eyes. Switching class, Chen spoke in a low voice. Since you're targeting me so blatantly, as he spoke, a chilling aura began to leak from his body, spreading outward. The system window reappeared. Class switch complete. Finished. At that very moment, the energy erupting from his body became terrifyingly intense, making the air itself feel heavy and oppressive. Chen lifted his head, his eyes cold and sharp. Then there's no need for me to be polite either. Chen spoke again, his voice calm yet carrying an unmistakable weight. Assessments aren't the only way to prove one's strength. Hearing this, even the director of the employment office showed a trace of shock on his face. At the same time, Ma Long turned toward Chen in panic and whispered urgently, Hey, brother, what are you doing? Chen continued explaining, his tone steady as if everything was already decided. Awakener schools have always had a special tradition to help students master their classes and improve their combat ability, and to encourage real confrontation experience. At that moment, murmurs spread rapidly among the students. Don't tell me he's planning to... What is that guy Si Chen doing? Chen kept speaking as a faint, cold energy began to surge from his body, growing stronger little by little. Everyone around him could feel it. In any setting, students can initiate a one-on-one challenge. This behavior is highly provocative, but it is also the most direct way to display one's true strength in front of everyone. His aura continued to intensify, causing many students to step back instinctively, their expressions filled with unease. Faced with a sudden challenge invitation, many might refuse. He slowly shifted his gaze toward Gongting. But Gongting definitely won't. Gongting remained completely composed. He didn't show fear, anger, or hesitation. Instead, he simply locked eyes with Chen, staring back at him with equal intensity. The atmosphere between them grew tense, like 2 storm clouds about to collide. Just then, a voice suddenly called out from behind. Si Chen! Is your team still missing people? I also want to participate in the school's graduation assessment this year. Chen turned around to see who was speaking. Standing there was Ling Yu. She smiled lightly and said confidently, I reached D rank back in middle school. Joining your team shouldn't drag you down, right? The moment Chen's friends saw her, their eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Inside their minds, they were all screaming in disbelief. Holy crap, when did Si Chen hook up with Ling Yu? This is awesome. At that moment, one of Gongting's teammates suddenly shouted in a panicked voice, Gi cousin, what is she saying? Even Gongting himself looked visibly stunned, and beside him, his uncle Gongshuan was equally shocked, his expression darkening as he watched the situation unfold. As Lingyu calmly walked toward Chen's team, whispers and murmurs erupted among the surrounding students. Vice President Lingyu wants to team up with Si Chen's bunch of noobs? Isn't she an exchange student from outside? She actually wants to participate in our school's graduation assessment too? Her background has always been mysterious. I heard she's a super genius girl from the Saint He Kingdom. Meanwhile, Gongshuan stared at Lingyu with a complicated expression, thinking to himself, this girl, why is she suddenly starting to help outsiders? Unable to stay silent any longer, he raised his voice and spoke publicly. Student Lingyu, as an exchange student, technically you are not qualified to participate in our school's graduation assessment. Since you transferred here, you have never taken a rank test, and I have never seen any official report proving your current rank. Your participation in this assessment is completely against the regulations. Lingyu, however, showed no fear or concern. She didn't even seem bothered by his words. Her expression remained calm and composed, as if she had expected this reaction all along. Just then, a new voice suddenly echoed across the area, deep, dignified, and commanding. Director Gongshuan is right. The moment everyone heard this, the entire place fell silent. Ma Long's eyes widened in disbelief as he blurted out, Principal? When did he get here? I didn't even see him arrive. Gongshuan turned around instantly, his face turning pale with shock. He bowed slightly in panic and stammered, Principal, you are here? The mysterious figure of the school's principal now stood before everyone, his presence instantly changing the atmosphere of the entire scene. Then the principal turned toward Lingyu and spoke calmly. Lingyu, you are only here at our school for a short exchange. What are you doing joining in on the fun here? Hearing this, Chen was inwardly shocked. In his mind, he thought to himself, I remember the principal's class is warrior. So how can he have teleportation abilities? The principal continued with a faint smile. Lingyu, if you participate, it would break the fairness of the assessment. After all, the graduation assessment only has meaning if real strength is shown, right? Lingyu tilted her head slightly and replied nonchalantly, Oh my. What a pity then. Watching this exchange, Chen was completely stunned. He activated his special eye ability to check both the principal's and Lingyu's ranks, but nothing appeared. His expression changed as he realized something was wrong. I can't detect the ranks of those two. At that moment, Gongshuan quickly spoke up in support of the principal. The principal is right. Our school has such prestige precisely because we have always followed the rules. Then the principal made a grand and serious announcement, his voice echoing across the entire field. The purpose of the National Awakener University is to cultivate superclass awakeners and provide them with the best stage to display their talents. Our mission is to ensure a continuous and stable supply of powerful awakeners to this world. He paused briefly before continuing in a dignified tone. The graduation combat assessment has been a tradition for decades. It is one of the most important turning points in a student's life. It would be truly regrettable if a student were to lose this opportunity due to special circumstances. As he spoke, Gongshuan's face grew tense. Inside his mind, he was panicking. Gongshuan then bowed slightly and spoke respectfully. Principal, you are absolutely right. It was the employment office's lack of consideration. We failed to realize that the current team formation system might leave some students stranded. He straightened his posture and made a final declaration in a loud, authoritative voice. Is this old man hinting at me? Did he realize I secretly tampered with things? He usually doesn't care about such small matters. So why is he putting on this show with Lingyu today? Is it really for that kid? He clenched his fist slightly but forced himself to calm down. Forget it. There's no need to clash with the principal over this. Gongting, your uncle can only help you this far. All the high-ranked students have already formed their teams, leaving Si Chen dragging 3 trash teammates behind him. This time, you should be able to win easily. Therefore, I announce, teams with fewer than 5 members, or teams without a high E-rank member, can still submit their registration. He looked around at all the students and concluded firmly, the gates of the graduation combat assessment are forever open to everyone. Now we see Chen and his 3 roommates officially forming their team. The moment the system accepted their registration, all 4 of them lit up with excitement. Their faces were full of relief and joy as they finally realized they could still take part in the assessment. Yay! We can successfully participate in the assessment! They shouted together, practically jumping in place. Ma Long then turned to Chen with complete trust and said, Si Chen, you be the captain! Chen nodded quietly, accepting the responsibility without hesitation. Meanwhile, the principal, who was still seated calmly at a distance, glanced toward Lingyu with a faint smile. Your interest in Si Chen is much stronger than I imagined. Lingyu, he said in a thoughtful tone. He then looked between the 2 sides, forming a sharp contrast on the field. On one side, we have the strongest team in school history, led by Gongting, and on the other side, we have Si Chen and his 3 lowest-ranked roommates. The principal folded his hands, clearly intrigued. It really makes me curious. What devil's cave will they choose? And how many points will they score in the end? At that moment, the announcer's voice rang out across the entire arena. After team formation is complete, the captain may now proceed with selecting a Devil's Cave. Almost immediately after, another notification flashed across the giant screen. A team has already selected a Devil's Cave? So fast! Students across the field gasped in shock. It's Si Chen. Si Chen's team has already selected a Devil's Cave. Holy shit! What they chose is actually... Before the announcer could even finish, chaos erupted among the crowd. Everyone was staring at the screen in utter disbelief, mouths wide open. At the same time, inside Chen's dorm team, Ma Long and the others were completely panicking. They rushed toward him in desperation. Si Chen, are you crazy? Retract it. Retract it right now. My ancestor Si Chen, oh God, do you even know what you just chose? But Chen stood completely still. His expression was cold, calm, and unreadable as he stared at the system screen. His eyes didn't waver, and his aura felt heavier than before, as if he had already accepted whatever storm was about to come.
Graduation battle examination marks a major turning point for the students, as it is the very first time they are required to form teams and step into a real, live dungeon rather than training in controlled environments. This exam is designed not only to test their combat abilities but also their teamwork, strategy, and endurance under real battlefield conditions. Inside the dungeon, numerous dangerous mobs and powerful monster lords roam freely, and students must engage them in battle to earn credit. Their performance is carefully evaluated, based on how effectively they clear the dungeon, defeat its creatures, and manage their time while surviving the challenges within. The scoring system is strict and unforgiving. Under dungeon completion, students can earn a maximum of 10 points, but only if they manage to slay every single monster inside the dungeon. However, for each surviving monster left behind, 1 point is deducted, making thoroughness just as important as strength. In the Boss Slayer category, defeating the dungeon's final boss grants an additional 20 points, though failing to defeat it does not result in any penalty. Finally, the completion time score offers up to 20 points, awarded only if all tasks are finished within 1 hour. If the team exceeds this limit, 1 point is deducted for every additional 5 minutes spent inside the dungeon. Different dungeon ranks represent different levels of difficulty, and each rank comes with its own score multiplier. Because of this, choosing an F-rank dungeon allows a team to earn a maximum of 75 points at best. However, if a team selects an E-rank dungeon, they can reach a much higher maximum score of 100 points. The rewards for top performers are extraordinary. All members of the team with the highest overall score will receive an official offer from the prestigious Imperial Guild. On top of that, the class MVP will be directly appointed to a management position within the Imperial Guild and will also receive a massive cash prize of 1 million yuan. As the students were discussing this, one of them suddenly mentioned that the highest score ever recorded in the history of the graduation examination was 90 points, set by a legendary former student who is now the current leader of the Imperial Guild. Hearing this, another student sighed and admitted that the E-rank dungeon is extremely tough, explaining that a team would need at least 3 D-rank fighters to even stand a chance. They then speculated that Gong Ting's team might be strong enough to challenge the school's all-time record. But just then, everyone noticed something shocking on the system window. A team had already selected their dungeon, and they had done it unbelievably fast. The entire hall erupted in disbelief when they saw the name. It was Si Chen's team. Even more shocking, he had chosen a D-rank dungeon, something that no student had ever successfully cleared before. The screen clearly displayed selected D-rank dungeon, awaiting team confirmation. The room fell into chaos as students whispered in fear and confusion. Some wondered if Si Chen had made a terrible mistake, asking aloud whether he had accidentally pressed the wrong button. Ma Long rushed toward Chen, staring at him in disbelief and shouting, "Chen, have you lost your mind? Do you even understand what you just picked?" Meanwhile, another teammate sat frozen in his seat, staring at the confirmation screen and muttering in panic, "You psycho. You absolute psycho. How did I end up on the same team with someone like you?" On the display before him were the words, "The captain has selected D-rank dungeon. Do you agree to join?" Looking at it in dread, he finally whispered, "Is it too late to quit the team?" Ma Long stared at Chen in disbelief and blurted out, "Dude, have you fully thought this through? This is a D-rank dungeon we're talking about." Before he could finish his explanation about what a D-rank truly meant, Chen calmly cut him off and replied, "I've already thought this through." A moment later, a system notification suddenly flashed across the hall. "DIING all team members have accepted. Team Gong Ting has submitted successfully." The students around them gasped in shock. Some shouted, "Holy shit, another D-rank," while others exclaimed in disbelief, "Whoa, another team chose the D-rank dungeon." The entire room buzzed with excitement as someone laughed and said, "Oh my god, this here is going to be entertaining." From Gong Ting's team, one female member scoffed loudly, saying, "Hey, what's with that team trying to act all tough? They're not even thinking about their own abilities. They know they're going to be dead last anyway, so they're just doing this for attention." Another teammate shook his head and added, "It's a D-rank dungeon. there's no way his teammates will even agree to join. They should just switch teams, while they still have the chance to quit. The same girl laughed mockingly and said, PFFT. The team that was barely put together is already going to fall apart to bad. So sad. Meanwhile, Ma Long looked at Si Chen and fell silent, thinking deeply to himself. He noticed Chen's expression, completely firm, completely unshaken, radiating an intense determination. In his thoughts, Ma Long wondered, when did he start having such a powerful aura around him? You used to depend on me completely during our entire time at school. Then, after a moment, Ma Long smiled slightly and spoke aloud. We've already made it through the past 4 years together. So, I'm with you till the very end. Another teammate shrugged and said casually, it's all the same from last place. Whether it's a D rank or F rank, it doesn't matter to me. Since we're already at the bottom, we might as well go into the D rank dungeon and see what it's really like. They then turned to their final teammate and asked for his confirmation. The last guy jumped up shouting, are you serious? I'm clearly the top dog in the storm. So how the hell am I the last one? After a brief pause, he grinned and declared, I'm joining too. Let's do this. We're all freaking graduating soon anyway, so let's go all out. At that moment, another system notification rang out to everyone. All team members have accepted. Team Si Chen has submitted successfully. Chen then turned toward his teammates with a serious expression and said softly, I'm sorry. I chose the D rank dungeon because I want to become MVP. But now, I'm forcing all of you to come with me. Chen looked at his teammates and said firmly, so let's aim for the top score together. Hearing this, Gongting suddenly spoke up, his tone cold and competitive. The MVP is mine. The moment those words left his mouth, a tense silence fell over Chen's entire team. Chen slowly turned around, and there stood Gongting, glaring at him with burning determination in his eyes. He spoke sharply, Si Chen, there can only be one strongest student in the entire school. Watching this exchange, Lingyu murmured in surprise, this is the first time I've seen that kind of expression on Gongting. The battle between those two is finally out in the open. At that moment, the principal spoke with admiration, saying that today's youth are truly incredible and fearless. Lingyu then added her own concern, noting that Si Chen choosing a D rank dungeon might be overconfidence. Even though he is a C rank, she explained, it would still be impossible for him to solo such a dungeon. She pointed out that a D rank dungeon carries a 3-score multiplier, making the maximum possible score 150 points, but its difficulty is several times greater than an E rank dungeon. Given his team's current abilities, she believed this was clearly not the smartest choice. The principal agreed, stating that with only a little over a month left before the examination, it would be nearly impossible for them to develop the required strength in such a short time. Still, he expressed hope that when the exam arrives, Si Chen and his team would at least deliver a respectable performance. The scene then shifts to a countdown. Days remaining until the examination, 17 days. We see Si Chen training his friends intensely. They are not in a magic room or simulator. Instead, they are running, dodging, and pushing their physical limits. Exhausted, Ma Long finally speaks up, panting heavily. Hey, Si Chen, everyone else is in the elemental power training room using the monster combat simulator. So, why are you making us do all of this? Dodgeball, shuttle runs, sprints, and long-distance running. Our graduation exam isn't a triathlon. So, what's the point of all this? Chen looked at Ma Long and the others with a serious expression and began to explain calmly but firmly. He said that at this stage, no matter how much they practice their elemental abilities inside a simulation, it ultimately remained nothing more than an artificial environment. When they finally stepped into a real, unfamiliar dungeon and came face to face with terrifying monsters they had never encountered before, fear of the unknown would crash over them like a raging flood. In that moment, it would not be their memorized theories or rehearsed attack patterns that would decide whether they lived or died. It would be their raw instinct. That was why Chen was making them train their bodies instead of just their powers. He emphasized that physical endurance, explosive strength, and reaction speed were what truly mattered, because these would sharpen their instincts and help them survive real danger. He admitted that the school's simulation training offered only limited benefits, and that the most effective way to grow was through actual dungeon combat. But ordinary students like them did not have access to real dungeons. Only those born with status, privilege, and power could freely train inside them. These were people who had never been ordinary to begin with, and from birth they already possessed what others could spend their entire lives chasing, without ever fully reaching. Meanwhile, in another location, Gong Ting and his elite team were actively hunting monsters inside a real training dungeon. They moved with confidence and precision, pushing themselves further ahead of everyone else. They were determined to widen the gap between themselves and ordinary students, ensuring their dominance and superiority. From the very beginning of their lives, they had been gifted with opportunities, resources, and power that most people could only dream of attaining. Back with Chen's group, one of his friends suddenly asked in frustration, well then, what can a bunch of nobodies like us possibly do? Chen turned toward him and replied with unshaken resolve. He said that by entering the Imperial Guild, they would break through the invisible social barrier that separated them from the privileged elite. The graduation examination would be their one and only chance to rise above those born into power, and it would also be Chun's own chance to surpass them. He declared that he would give everything he had to keep his promise to his teammates. His voice grew stronger as he finished, saying that together, they would fight with everything they had, and that no matter what, they would absolutely win. 15 days until the exam. We are taken to the Dream Tower, Starfall Barrens. The scene opens with Bacane desperately trying to fight a panther. He throws everything he has into the battle, but the beast is still far too powerful. The panther overwhelms him completely and defeats him with brutal force, proving just how dangerous the tower truly is. 10 days before the exam, the scene shifts to Chun and his entire team training relentlessly. Everyone is pushing themselves to their limits. At the same time, Chun's progress inside the Dream Tower starts improving rapidly. He can now handle a few panthers on his own with much more ease than before. Meanwhile, Gongting is inside a dangerous zone, hunting monsters continuously to gain experience. He keeps fighting without rest, growing stronger with every battle. 5 days before the exam, Chun and his friends are shown lifting heavy weights, focusing on strengthening their physical abilities. Their training has become intense and disciplined. Then the scene moves to 3 days before the exam. Gongting is seen again fighting monsters, and by now he has become significantly more powerful than before. 2 days before the exam, we return to the Dream Tower. A soldier defeats a panther in a fierce fight, and immediately after killing it, he levels up. His level rises to 16, showing how quickly strength can increase inside the tower. 1 day before the exam, now we see Chun. His body is covered in blood, clearly injured from battle. Yet despite the pain and the wounds, he stands firm, with determination in his eyes. He declares that now it is finally time for the real fight. June 17, 2157. Graduation Combat Exam DAY. The long-awaited day has arrived. A robot appears in front of the examinees and announces in a mechanical voice, "Hello, examinees. I'm your escort drone for this exam." Chun is seen tightening and adjusting his gloves, preparing himself mentally and physically for what lies ahead. Then we see his entire team. The atmosphere feels different now. Everyone looks serious and tense. Compared to before, they seem more distant, more focused, and more mature. The casual energy they once had is gone, replaced by determination and the heavy pressure of the upcoming battle. The real test is about to begin. At that moment, the same robot announces to all the students present, "Please check that your wristbands and equipment are worn correctly. Attention, everyone. The graduation exam officially begins." As its mechanical voice echoes across the area, the scene shifts outside the National Awaken University. Several luxurious cars arrive one after another and come to a stop. From one elegant vehicle, a distinguished man steps out. The principal walks forward and greets him with a handshake, saying warmly, "Long time no see, President Gong." The man nods slightly and replies, Sorry to keep you waiting, Principal." We are then given his introduction. He is Gong Lin, co-founder of the Imperial Guild and Gong Ting's father. From above, a few students watch the scene unfold and begin whispering among themselves in shock and excitement. So that's one of the founders of the Imperial Guild. He's so handsome. Who's in the car behind them? To think even an Imperial Guild founder and the principal came personally to invite them out. Just then, another car door opens, and yet another influential figure steps out. A student stutters in disbelief. It's actually the man revealed is none other than Carl Cavendish, vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance. The students are completely stunned. The Alliance vice chairman. The Guild Alliance vice chairman actually came to our school. Damn, people like that you might never even see once in your life. No wonder they cleared out the whole administrative district today. The Guild Alliance is the most powerful organization in the world right now. If they notice you, a broadcast interrupts their whispers. The live broadcast of the graduation combat exam is about to begin. Please head inside. The students continue murmuring nervously. No, even just getting in contact with the Guild Alliance, your whole life could change in an instant. The scene then shifts to a man addressing the situation formally. He announces, "This year there are 184 students taking part in the graduation combat exam, split into 28 teams. 23 teams chose F-rank layers, 3 teams chose E-rank layers, and 2 teams chose D-rank layers." Hearing this, a woman reacts with surprise. Some teams actually chose D-rank layers. Her identity is then revealed. She is Sigrid, Secretary General of the Guild Alliance. With a serious expression, she continues, "Even for pro-guild parties, D-rank layers are considered dangerous. Did you properly warn the students about how dangerous layers are?" At that moment, the host calmly begins clarifying the situation. "Of course, we explain everything clearly in advance. Since they rarely get real combat experience, the vast majority of students are lowly ranky. They can barely handle normal mobs and F-rank layers." His tone is steady, but the reality of his words makes it clear just how serious this exam truly is. The scene then shifts. Inside an F-rank layer, a team of students is fighting intensely, but they are performing surprisingly well. With coordinated attacks and decent teamwork, They manage to eliminate every monster that comes their way. One after another, the regular creatures fall beneath their combined assault. For a moment, it seems like they are in complete control of the battlefield. However, things change when they encounter the true ruler of the lair. They begin to struggle badly against the lair lord. Standing before them is the boss monster, large thorn-jaw salamander. The scene then shifts again, inside an E-rank lair. Here, the danger rises to another level entirely. Every single mob inside an E-rank lair is as strong as an F-rank lair lord. The atmosphere is darker, heavier. The air itself feels suffocating. Suddenly, countless spiders come into view. They cover the walls, the ceiling, and the ground. Their numbers are overwhelming, far more than any normal team would be comfortable facing. Their legs scrape against the stone as they move in waves, surrounding anything that enters their territory. This isn't just a battle against a single powerful enemy. It's a battle against an army. One frightened student, clearly overwhelmed, shouts in panic, "How is an E-rank lair this hard? This is way beyond what we expected." The fear in his voice reflects what many of them are feeling. The pressure inside the lair is crushing, and the reality of the exam is far harsher than they imagined. The announcer's calm voice echoes through the broadcast. So for most students, clearing an E-rank lair is basically a mission impossible. Hearing this, the Secretary General of the Guild Alliance steps forward and asks seriously, "If a student runs into danger, what safety measures are there?" The announcer immediately responds, confident and reassuring, "Rest assured, Secretary General, students are our most valuable resource. Outside each lair, armed Imperial Guild personnel are standing by. If extreme danger is detected, they will intervene immediately. Plus, the examinees' wristbands already have a teleport function." At that very moment, inside an F-rank dungeon, a student raises his voice in fear. "I quit the exam." The wristband on his hand begins to glow brightly. An announcement flashes, "Withdrawn." In the next instant, he disappears from the dungeon and reappears safely outside. The announcer explains, as soon as a student chooses to give up the combat exam, they'll be teleported out of the lair immediately. Even after hearing this, the Secretary General calmly adds, "Even so, there are still two teams that chose the higher difficulty D-rank lairs. Your school really is full of talent. I'm looking forward to seeing their performance." Meanwhile, the announcer watches the broadcast silently, thinking to himself, "Yeah, I want to see how long they can last. Those kids will bail out soon enough." Then the scene changes. D-rank lair, high risk, Cloud Forest Summit. This is Chun's team. The environment is wild and dangerous, filled with thick mist and towering trees. Suddenly, Ma Long stares ahead in shock and stammers, what the hell is that thing?" Standing before them is a terrifying monster. Its name appears, Ghost Bat Monkey, D-rank Cloud Assassin. The creature's body is lean and muscular, with wings like a bat stretching from its arms. That thing looks creepy as hell. The moment Chun sees it clearly, his expression turns serious and focused. He quickly analyzes the enemy and says, "Ghost Bat Monkey, Cloud-type monster. It specializes in group attacks and has extremely fast aerial dash speed. You have to watch out for their dive attacks at all times." Before anyone can even fully process his warning, more shadows begin emerging from the mist above. One, two, then several. A whole group of D-rank monsters spreads their wings and charges toward Chun's team at terrifying speed. "They're coming," Chun shouts. In the next second, the sky seems to drop on them as the Ghost Bat Monkeys dive down like living missiles. But one by one, the team manages to dodge the incoming attacks. Their bodies move almost on instinct, barely escaping the deadly claws slicing through the air. One of them gasps in disbelief, "Holy Shasterisk, we actually just dodged a D-rank monster's attack." Ma Long, breathing heavily, looks at himself in shock. "I'm still alive." Then suddenly, a monster's lifeless body crashes down in front of them with a heavy thud. They freeze, another body falls, and then a third. All three D-rank Ghost Bat Monkeys lie dead on the ground. The team slowly turns their heads toward Chun. Chun took down 3 D-rank monsters in an instant. Electric sparks still crackle faintly in the air. Chun stands calmly, his Thunder Tiger power fading around him. Just then, Chun turns to his roommate and says in a firm, steady voice, "Your current strength isn't enough to handle them. Just protect yourselves here. Leave the rest to me." And with those words, he bursts forward at incredible speed, disappearing from that spot in the blink of an eye. At the same time, we see all of the friends desperately dodging the relentless attacks of the monsters. The creatures give them not even a second to breathe. One strike follows another, wild and merciless, forcing them to push their bodies to the limit just to survive. In the chaos, one of the friends narrowly avoids a blow but loses his balance and crashes straight into a tree. As he struggles to regain himself, a sudden realization hits him. So that's why he was training our reaction speed and explosiveness before. He never expected us to provide any real help. It was only so we could protect ourselves, damn it. I've clearly been the boss of this dorm the whole time. Yet now I have to rely on this kid to carry me all the way to graduation. Frustration and shock swirl inside him as he finally understands the truth. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Chun moves like a storm unleashed. He cuts through the monsters without hesitation. Not a single one escapes his hands. Every attack he makes is precise, overwhelming, and absolute. The monsters fall one after another, unable to withstand his terrifying power, while his friends struggled just to survive. Chun stands alone at the center of destruction, ruthlessly eliminating every creature in his path. Just then, several more monsters surge forward, charging straight at Chun with the intent to overwhelm him. But against the fury of his lightning attacks, not a single one can stand their ground. Bolts of crackling energy tear through the battlefield, and every creature that dares to approach is struck down instantly. One after another, they fall. Unable to endure even a moment under the sheer force of his power, Chun doesn't slow down, doesn't hesitate, he simply eliminates them all. Watching this, one of his friends feels his heart tremble. I didn't believe Ma Long when he said Si Chen was strong, but seeing it with my own eyes now, this guy is unbelievably powerful. He doesn't seem like a graduate at all. He's clearly a battle-hardened warrior. When did this guy suddenly become so reliable? I've truly been left behind. The thought stings. A faint bitterness rises within him, not hatred, but the painful realization that someone he once stood beside has advanced far beyond him. He is still lost in those thoughts when suddenly a monster rushes toward him from behind. His eyes widen, and he shouts at the top of his lungs, "Careful! Another one is coming from behind." Seeing the danger clearly now, he clenches his teeth and finally decides to act. He refuses to remain just a bystander. Channeling his energy, he activates his ability and unleashes his fire palm. Flames erupt from his hand in a blazing surge, striking the monster head-on and stopping it in its tracks. The creature staggers in shock, clearly not expecting such resistance. Taking advantage of the moment, he turns toward his friends and yells, "Xiangyu, Ma Long, we can't just act like dead weights and rely entirely on Chun. This isn't only his graduation assessment, it's ours too." As he shouts those words, a powerful and terrifying energy bursts out from his body. The hesitation that once clouded him is gone. In its place stands determination. He may have felt left behind, but he refuses to stay that way any longer. After that, Xiangyu nods firmly and says, "You're right." Without wasting a second, he activates his ability Flora Chant, Vine Lock. Instantly, thick vines burst out from the ground, twisting and spiraling through the air before wrapping tightly around the monster's body. The vines coil around its limbs and torso, restraining its movements. With determination in his voice, Xiangyu shouts, "Have a taste of this." The monster struggles violently, its massive body thrashing as it tries to tear free from the tightening vines. For a brief moment, it appears trapped, forced to fight against the living restraints. But after a short yet intense struggle, the creature's brute strength overwhelms the vines. With a powerful surge, it snaps them apart and breaks free, pushing Xiangyu and the others back with the force of its movement. Seeing this, Xiangyu grits his teeth and exclaims, "It broke free instantly." Just then, another voice rings out as a new skill is unleashed: Cloud Chant, Frost Breeze. A chilling gust sweeps across the battlefield, and the air itself seems to freeze. The icy wind crashes into the monster, slowing its movements as frost begins to form across its body. Its once ferocious momentum falters. It is Ma Long who shouts out, "I slowed it down. Xiangyu, let's attack together." Xiangyu nods sharply, his eyes blazing with resolve. "Let's see you run now." In perfect coordination, the two unleash their combo skill, Frost Breeze plus Vine Lock. The freezing wind slows the monster's body to a crawl, and at the same time, fresh vines surge forward, stronger and faster than before. This time, the vines latch onto the creature, while it is still stiffened by the frost, binding it tightly once more. The combined assault leaves the monster in terrible condition, its movements restricted and its strength greatly weakened. Seizing the opportunity, both of them shout toward their third friend, Xiangzuo. Now, without hesitation, Xiangzuo steps forward, flames gathering rapidly in his palm. He advances with fierce determination, forming a blazing fireball that radiates intense heat. "Test this," he roars as he unleashes his attack Nuclear Mage, Burst Flame Bullet. The fiery projectile blasts forward and slams directly into the restrained monster. The explosion of flames engulfs it completely, and when the fire clears, the creature's condition has worsened drastically. Under the relentless combination of frost, vines, and blazing fire, the monster is pushed to the brink, overwhelmed by the united strength of the three friends. Then once again, Xiangzuo unleashes a rapid series of fireball combo attacks upon the monster. One blazing sphere after another crashes into it, each explosion worsening its already critical condition. Flames roar across the battlefield, scorching everything in their path. The monster staggers under the relentless assault, its body battered and barely holding together. Xiangyu grits his teeth, veins bulging as he struggles to maintain control of his vines. "I can't hold it back anymore," he shouts, his voice strained. Ma Long, still sustaining the freezing winds, stammers through heavy breaths, "I'm at my limit." The frost in the air begins to weaken as exhaustion takes over him. Hearing both of them, Xiangzuo's eyes burn with fierce determination. Forget it. I'm going all out," he roars, gathering every last ounce of his strength. He forms an enormous, blazing fireball in his hands. The heat radiating from it is overwhelming, far greater than any attack he has used before. With a loud scream, he hurls it forward and declares, "This is my nuclear mage converged burst flame bullet." The moment the attack connects, a massive explosion erupts. A deafening blast shakes the entire cave, flames surging outward in a violent wave of destruction. The ground trembles, and smoke fills the air. When the impact finally fades and the dust begins to settle, a mechanical voice echoes through the cave. "Congratulations. Congratulations. Successfully killed a ghost bat monkey." After that, the scene shifts to the three of them, completely exhausted. Their bodies are covered in sweat. They're breathing heavy, yet their eyes shine with disbelief and triumph. Xiang Zuo pants and says, "We actually took down a D-rank monster." For a brief moment, even Chun looks slightly surprised. He clearly hadn't expected them to defeat a creature above their level. Just then, one of them calls out excitedly, "Hey Chun, did you see that? Ghost bat monkey fingerbone ×1. Their team has earned a point." Xiang Zuo looks toward Chun with a proud grin and says, "It was a piece of cake." Chun glances at him and replies calmly, "Yeah, good job." Behind him, however, countless monster corpses lie scattered, the ones he had defeated alone. But the mini-robot announces once more in its mechanical tone, "Congratulations. All mobs within this devil's cave have been killed." The scene then shifts outside, where Gong Ting and the others are watching in disbelief. Gong Ting's uncle stands there, utterly stunned. In his mind, he keeps repeating, "How is this possible? These trash students with zero combat experience actually killed a D-rank monster above their level." And all of this is being witnessed by the VIP members as well. Every single one of them watching the unbelievable outcome unfold before their eyes. Seeing Chun's overwhelming performance, the vice chairman, Carl Cavendish, narrows his eyes slightly as if recalling a distant memory. After watching the way Chun moves, his calm expression, his precise strikes, the quiet confidence in his stance, he speaks in a measured tone. This young man is performing quite excellently, and he looks a lot like an old acquaintance. There is a subtle shift in his expression, something between curiosity and nostalgia. It isn't just Chun's strength that catches his attention, but the familiarity in his aura, the way he fights as if he has already walked through countless battles. After that, Carl Cavendish says, "His name is Si Chen, huh? I'll remember it." All of this is being overheard by Gong Lin, while Gong Ting's uncle quietly observes everything happening around him, not missing a single detail. He draws everyone's attention and says, "Everyone, take a look over here." The other team that chose a D-rank lair has already fought their way to the lair's midpoint. Seeing this, the female manager speaks up in clear amazement. Their coordination is so smooth, it's practically on the level of a pro guild party. Hearing her words, Carl Cavendish raises a brow and responds with interest. "Oh, interesting." Gong Ting's uncle watches thoughtfully and says to himself, "This year's graduates are looking pretty good. The battle's only just begun. The real show is still ahead." Then the scene shifts, and we are shown the location. D-rank lair, high risk, toxic vine grotto. We see a large number of strange, mushroom-like monsters spreading across the battlefield. From their swollen bodies, they continuously release clouds of thick green poison into the air. We're told that these creatures are called miasma shroom, D-rank flora warriors. The toxic mist they emit slowly spreads through the surroundings, making the environment even more dangerous and difficult to endure. Just then, one of the female members of Gong Ting's team steps forward and activates her special skill. As her power takes effect, the monster's stamina, agility, and strength begin to drop rapidly, their movements growing sluggish and unstable. Seizing the opportunity, a boy from the team shouts, "Gather." Immediately after, another ability is revealed, Star Mage, Star Pull Convergence. With this skill, he creates a powerful pulling force that drags the monsters together, trapping them tightly in one concentrated spot. Holding them in place, he calls out to his captain. At that very moment, Captain Gong Ting arrives at the center of the battlefield. Without hesitation, he unleashes a devastating attack and strikes down the master monster. A massive explosion erupts upon impact, shaking the area with overwhelming force. We are then told the name of his technique, Blazing Skybreak. After executing the move, an intense and powerful aura continues to radiate from his body, making it clear just how strong he truly is. Meanwhile, his teammates watch confidently, thinking to themselves, "Hey, these monsters in the school exam are the exact same ones we fought while training. It's like second nature to us now." I guess it's true. The graduation exam was rigged by the Gong family. Life gets a lot easier when you know the right people. The boy is still thinking to himself, "At this rate, we'll become the champions in no time. Come on, it's time to fight the boss." With that surge of confidence, their team moves forward without hesitation. The scene then shifts to Chun and his entire team, who are steadily making their way through another dangerous location. D-rank dungeon, high risk, Cloudwood Summit's peak. Step by step, they climb higher until they finally reach the summit. Catching his breath, Ma Long looks around in disbelief and says, "I can't believe it. We actually made it to the top of this D-rank dungeon." As he speaks, the view reveals what stands before them, a massive ape master, towering over the area like a king of the mountain. Its name is revealed, Frostwraith Ape, D-rank, Cloud Soldier. The creature's overwhelming presence alone makes the air feel heavy. Staring at it in shock, Ma Long mutters, "Is that the monster lord?" Xiang Yu gulps and adds nervously, "One slap from that thing would kill me 10 times over." The Frostwraith ape is calmly eating something when its gaze slowly shifts toward them. The moment its eyes lock onto the group, Ma Long panics and blurts out, "Holy she, it's looking at us." The Ape King begins moving toward them with terrifying steps that shake the ground. Fear instantly takes over, and the other 3 members turn and start running without a second thought. But Chun doesn't retreat. Instead, he dashes forward at double speed, heading straight toward the advancing monster. In a flash, he channels his thunder power and launches a direct attack. The impact is so incredibly powerful that the Frostwraith ape is forced backward, struggling to maintain its balance. Before the monster can recover, Chun vanishes from its sight and reappears behind it in an instant. Without giving it any time to react, he unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes. Each blow lands with explosive force, and within moments, the enormous body of the Frostwraith ape shatters into countless small pieces, completely destroyed. Watching the entire fight unfold in stunned silence, Ma Long can barely process what he has just seen. His voice trembles as he says, "Did he really just kill it that easily?" A notification suddenly appears before them. "Obtain Frostwraith ape fur ×1. Along with it, Chun receives 200 experience points. As the message fades, Chun, Ma Long, and the rest of the team stare at what remains of the monster's shattered body. Looking at it carefully, Chun begins to think to himself, "That's weird. Killing the lord of a D-rank dungeon only gave this much experience, and the loot was pretty bad too. Something about it doesn't feel right." Just then, one of his teammates suddenly shouts in excitement, "Holy crap, look at all these mana crystals. It's you," yelling loudly as he waves toward a nearby tree. "Hey, you guys, check this out. That big guy must have stashed all these mana crystals in this tree hollow." Inside the hollow trunk, a large number of glowing crystals can be seen. Judging by their size and shine, Yu eagerly says, "By the looks of them, these have gotta be at least mid-tier mana crystal." Without thinking twice, he stretches his hand forward to grab them, already dreaming about the profit. "If we can get these out and sell him, we'll be set for life." Seeing this reckless move, Chun's expression changes instantly. A deep sense of danger hits him, and he shouts desperately, "Stop." But it's already too late. The moment Yu touches the mana crystals, a terrifying surge of energy erupts from within them. The force is unbelievably powerful. It blasts everyone backward violently, sending them flying through the air. Then, a new name is revealed: Cloud Mage Arctic Nova. What exactly this is remains unexplained, but its effect is immediate and devastating. In the next instant, Chun's teammates are completely frozen solid. Their bod is encased in ice. Even the robot that had accompanied them is destroyed and rendered useless. The entire area turns deathly silent. The scene then cuts back to Gong Ting's uncle. On the board before him, it now reads, Team Si Chen, nitrogen monoxide signal. Seeing this, Gong Ting's uncle thinks to himself with cold satisfaction. They fell right into the trap. High-level monsters are actually quite intelligent. Once a loser, always a loser. You're all nothing but a burden on society. And now, this marks the end of your graduatio exam. Seeing everything unfold on the monitor, Carl Cavendish speaks in a serious tone. Under this circumstance, the students' lives are clearly endangered. Hearing this, Gong Ting's uncle immediately agrees in a flattering manner. Yes, precisely. Saving the students is our top priority. It seems the guild rescue team will need to step in, even if it means ending their exam. Before he can finish, the principal calmly interrupts. Let's give them a little more time. The wristbands continuously monitor their condition, and all of their vital signs are currently stable. His gaze remains steady as he continues. Besides, there's no indication in their neural data of a desire to quit the exam, so the choice to withdraw should be left in the hands of the examinees themselves. The scene shifts back to Chun and his team inside the frozen battlefield. Ma Long's condition has worsened because of the intense cold. His body trembles uncontrollably, and frost clings to his clothes. Struggling to stay conscious, he thinks to himself, well, thankfully I'm also a cloud class, so I have some resistance to the cold. Otherwise, I would have been frozen too. Just then, a terrifying presence emerges before them. From within the icy mist, a monster slowly steps forward, its aura far more overwhelming than anything they've faced so far. The air grows even colder as it approaches. Staring at it in shock, Ma Long mutters, is he the real lord of this dungeon? Ma Long was still extremely shaken after seeing the boss. His heart pounded violently in his chest as fear crept through his entire body. In his mind, a terrifying thought slowly formed. Is he the real lord of this dungeon? His eyes widened as realization struck him. I've seen that thing in the monster manual. The creature standing before him was something far more dangerous than he had expected. It's a cloud elemental mage that specializes in ice manipulation. It uses powerful AoE attacks and knockback abilities. Creatures like this were known for their cruel nature. They were insidious and cunning monsters that took a sick pleasure in tormenting their prey before finally killing them. A frostbound Lich King, Sea Cloud Mage. The thought alone sent chills down Ma Long's spine. His breathing grew heavier as panic began to take over his mind. There was no doubt about it now. That Arctic Nova just now. It was definitely his trap. Fear completely overwhelmed him. Without wasting another second, Ma Long suddenly turned and began running as fast as he could. That's a rare C-rank monster lord, he shouted in panic. There's no way I can fight it by myself. I've got to hurry. Driven by pure survival instinct, Ma Long sprinted forward with all his strength. He rushed desperately toward Chun, who was still frozen in place inside the thick block of ice. The cold air cut through the dungeon as he ran, knowing that every second mattered if he wanted any chance of surviving this nightmare. As Ma Long rushed forward, desperately trying to reach Chun, disaster struck in an instant. Without warning, a sharp ice spike suddenly shot up from the ground and pierced straight through his leg. The jagged spike tore through his lower leg, stopping him in his tracks. Ma Long let out a painful cry as his body immediately lost balance. The intense pain surged through him, and he collapsed heavily onto the cold dungeon floor. On the other side, the frostbound Lich King slowly moved, its icy presence dominating the entire area. The terrifying ice Lich seemed to mutter something in its own strange and ancient language, its cold voice echoing faintly through the dungeon like a whisper carried by frozen winds. Meanwhile, Ma Long struggled on the ground, breathing heavily as the pain throbbed through his injured leg. Suddenly, the device on his wrist began flashing rapidly. His watch-like system activated an emergency alert. Warning, critical injury detected in lower left leg. A mechanical voice continued the notification. Do you want to withdraw from the examination? Despite the severe pain and the warning from the system, Ma Long gritted his teeth. His eyes burned with determination as he forced himself to move. No way, he shouted firmly, summoning what little strength he had left. Ma Long immediately activated one of his abilities and directed it toward Chun, who was still trapped inside the block of ice. I need to thaw Si Chen immediately. At that moment, information about the skill he was using appeared. Cloud Chanter, Perfect Origin. This ability imbued a purifying energy into a single target, gradually cleansing all debuffs affecting them. Ma Long focused everything he had into the skill. His mind clung to a single desperate hope. If I can defrost him, then we'll still have a chance. However, before the skill could fully take effect, another ice spike suddenly shot out from the ground. This one struck violently through his hand. AARGH. Ma Long screamed in agony as the spike pierced through him. The sudden pain forced him to lose control, and his body collapsed back onto the icy ground. Moments later, his system displayed another message. Purification failed at the same moment. On the other side of the battlefield, the Ice Lich raised its hand and activated another terrifying ability. The skill it used was known as Cloud Mage, Frostbone Skewers. The ground around Ma Long suddenly trembled, and countless sharp ice spikes began erupting violently from below, launching toward him like deadly spears. At the same time, Ma Long's watch began flashing frantically as multiple system alerts rang out one after another. Warning, warning, heart rate in critical range. Critical injury detected in right arm. Warning, warning, heart rate in critical range. Critical injury detected in right arm. The emergency notification continued repeating urgently. Do you wish to withdraw from the examination? Hearing those words, Ma Long's expression twisted with anger and frustration. Even while bleeding and barely able to stand, he forced himself to speak through clenched teeth, his voice filled with rage. Withdraw. His breathing grew heavier as years of frustration and humiliation flooded his mind, running away from every challenge and struggle I've ever had to face. That's exactly why I was always left behind. Memories of being ignored and mocked resurfaced painfully. I was constantly overlooked, ridiculed, humiliated. His voice trembled with emotion as he continued. Constantly treated as if I didn't matter. We put everything on the line just to get here. Against all the odds, I finally have a chance to change my life. He clenched his fist tightly despite the pain shooting through his injured arm. There's no way I'll ever give up. At that moment, a powerful surge of energy suddenly erupted from Ma Long's body. A bright force began gathering around him as if his determination itself had awakened something deep within him. Ignoring the blood and the injuries covering his body, Ma Long crawled forward and placed his hand back onto the thick ice that trapped Chun. Once again, he activated his ability, Perfect Origin. This time, he poured every last bit of strength, willpower, and energy he had into the skill. Meanwhile, the boss monster noticed what he was doing. The frostbound Lich King immediately launched another deadly attack toward Ma Long, sending a violent strike of ice power straight at him. But this time, Ma Long did not retreat. He refused to move. He stood his ground and continued channeling his ability with everything he had. Because of that unwavering determination, the ice finally began to crack. Then suddenly, the frozen prison shattered apart. At that very moment, bright lightning suddenly erupted from Chun's body. Powerful bolts of electricity burst outward in all directions, filling the dungeon with blinding light. An enormous explosion followed, shaking the entire area. Even the monster itself was momentarily stunned by the overwhelming blast. Taking advantage of that moment, Chen immediately grabbed his injured friend without hesitation. Moving with incredible speed, he carried Ma Long away from the battlefield and quickly retreated to a safer location. Ma Long forced out a weak laugh as he looked at Chun and said, "Hey, in the end, you still had to break free on your own." Hearing that, Chun immediately shook his head and replied firmly, "No, you were a huge help. Your injuries. Are you going to be okay?" Ma Long took a slow breath and tried to steady himself. Despite the pain spreading through his body, he answered calmly, "It's nothing serious. I've managed to stop the bleeding." Then, his expression turned serious as he looked toward the battlefield again. "That thing is a C-rank cloud elemental monster lord, a frostbound Lich King. It's incredibly powerful. No matter what happens, we can't let it freeze us again." After hearing his friend's warning, Chun slowly turned and looked back toward the monster. At that exact moment, the boss monster raised its power and activated another terrifying ability. The skill it used was called Giga Frost Nova. The air instantly grew colder as overwhelming icy energy gathered around the creature. Chun and the monster now stood directly facing each other. From behind, Ma Long could only watch anxiously, wondering what would happen next. The boss monster suddenly formed a strange, sinister smile. Seeing the massive wave of ice power forming, Ma Long's eyes widened in shock. How the hell did he summon a Frost Nova this huge? He shouted in disbelief. "There's no way for us to dodge this." The next moment, a massive explosion erupted. A terrifying pressure burst outward across the entire area, shaking the dungeon with unbelievable force. Even the boss monster itself seemed shocked by what it was witnessing. When the smoke and frost began to clear, the scene changed completely. Chun was standing there, but not in his normal form. He had transformed into another state known as Gravehound King. Along with his transformation, Chun had also gained new abilities. One of them was called Frosty Physique. This ability granted him complete immunity to cold temperatures, and all of his resistances became stronger whenever he fought in a low-temperature environment. Seeing this transformation, even the boss monster was completely stunned. Ma Long stared at Chun in disbelief, struggling to process what he was seeing. "Si Chen, that power. What happened to you?" he asked in shock. "Aren't you a lightning elemental assassin? Don't tell me you're a 1 in a million dual-class awakener." But before he could say anything else, Chun spoke calmly to his injured friend. "I'm sorry. I misjudged the situation, and it's my fault the three of you were put in danger." At that moment, a new process suddenly began. Chun's body started to radiate an even more intense and terrifying energy as the class-changing process activated. "But that ends now," Chun said firmly. The power surging from his body grew stronger and darker than before. The energy surrounding him twisted violently as the transformation continued. Then finally, the class change was complete. Chun now stood in an entirely new form known as the Abyssal Fiend. In his hand appeared a powerful S-rank weapon, radiating a terrifying aura. His presence alone felt overwhelming, as if a true demon had awakened within the battlefield. Looking straight at the monster, Chun declared coldly, "I'll finish this right away." What if someone didn't just break the rules, but erase them entirely? Chun steps forward, no hesitation, no wasted motion. In a single, fluid instant, he switches his class. Level 16, Abyssal Fiend. A violent surge of dark blue energy burst from his body, spiraling outward like a storm breaking free. The air trembles as an HS-rank sword forms in his grip, its edge humming with tightly compressed power. He doesn't shout. He doesn't posture. There's no need. His voice remains calm, almost indifferent as he says he'll end this now. Behind him, Milan goes completely still. What he's seen shouldn't exist. In this world, awakeners are bound to a single class, absolute, unchangeable. In impossibly rare cases, perhaps 1 in 10 million, someone might awaken a second class. Those rare beings are known as dual-class awakeners. And across the entire world, there aren't even 10. The moment one appears, every major guild begins hunting them. But Chun isn't just rare. He's something beyond reason. Milan's pupils shrink, his breath catching in his throat as the truth sinks in. Chun doesn't have 2 classes. He has 3, and none of them are ordinary. Blue energy ignites around Chun, wrapping his body like a living current. His eyes glow with a cold, cutting intensity, as his power surges higher and higher until it stabilizes at its peak maximum stamina, maximum strength. Then, without warning, he disappears. The ground beneath him caves inward. A shockwave of blue mana exploding outward as a streak of light tears through the air. In less than a second, he's already above the Skeleton King, far too fast to follow, far too fast to react. His sword rises and energy condenses along the blade, growing denser with every heartbeat. Milan's eyes widen again. Something has changed. The suffocating pressure that once poured from the Skeleton King is gone. Completely gone. For the first time, the monster hesitates, and within that hesitation, it feels something it has never known before: fear. Chun's voice slices cleanly through the silence. "Star Soldier, triple calamity, overload mode." The blade falls. For a fraction of a second, nothing happens. Then a thin line appears across the Skeleton King's body and it splits. Chun lands smoothly, one knee touching the ground, his sword embedded beside him with perfect control. Behind him, the monster's body separates midair before collapsing completely. bone fragments crashing down like rain. The battlefield falls silent, broken only by the echo of impact. A system notification flickers into existence. Experience gained, over 5,000. Level up. Chun is now level 17. He doesn't celebrate. He doesn't react. To him, it's just another outcome. Milan stumbles forward, his legs barely holding him up before he drops to his knees beside the shattered skull. He stares at it as if expecting it to move again, his voice barely escaping his lips. Of course, Chun could do it. This wasn't a fight against a second-rank monster lord. This was erasure. Behind him, Chun rises to his feet and speaks calmly, as if nothing extraordinary has happened. Aren't the other just still frozen? The words hit Milan like a shock. His face drains of color as realization crashes down on him. Chong, you. He had completely forgotten. Cursing himself, he spins and sprints toward them without another thought. Meanwhile, Chun walks quietly toward the severed head of the Skeleton King. Notification hovers in front of him, waiting. He lifts his hand, and a deep red aura forms around it, dense, heavy, almost hungry. The skull begins to break apart, not shattering, but dissolving. Strands of energy peel away from it, drawn toward his palm as if being devoured. The flow continues steadily, the energy feeding into him until nothing remains. Then it stops. Chun closes his fist. The red aura flickers once, then settles. Devouring. Complete. A final notification appears. New class acquired. Bone Leech King. For the first time, Chun pauses not out of hesitation, but because something unexpected follows. Another class appears. Cloud Mage. This one is different. It didn't come from the dream realm, nor from any system-triggered event. This one is real. He exhales slowly, letting the realization settle as he processes it without outward reaction. Then his gaze shifts slightly to the side. The floating robocam nearby is frozen solid, encased in ice from the earlier Arctic nova. No movement, no recording, no evidence. Everything that just happened remains hidden from the world. And with time still left on the clock, a perfect score is already guaranteed. A yellow notification suddenly flashes before him, pulling his attention back. Chun's eyes narrow slightly as he reads it. Lightning Assassin has leveled up. 1 star point gained. A rare stat increase. He studies the message for a moment, calm and composed as always, then quietly murmurs that he got a star, nothing more, nothing less. Meanwhile, in another dungeon, the situation couldn't be more different. Team Gaong is barely holding together. In front of them stands a D-rank boss, a massive, grotesque, man-eating plant. The battlefield is in ruins. The ground is torn apart, vines lashing through the air like blades. Thick, root-like tendrils coil and strike relentlessly, dragging hunters off their feet as chaos spreads. One mage struggles desperately, barely maintaining a glowing purple chain wrapped around the monster, his voice cracking under pressure as he shouts that it's too strong. Another yells that he won't be able to hold it much longer. At the front line, an archer fires arrow after arrow from a thunderbow, but each shot lands and falls uselessly, unable to pierce the creature's defenses. The monster retaliates with violent force. Its roots slam outward, sending bodies crashing across the battlefield. One hunter hits the ground hard, gasping for breath. This isn't something they were prepared for. Their training falls apart under the pressure. Fear begins to spread. Their formation breaks. Control slips away. And then, a voice cuts cleanly through the chaos. Gaodong. All eyes turn toward him. He stands behind them, completely still, untouched by the panic around him. Two mages stand at his back, channeling their energy into him, their mana flowing steadily into his body. Slowly, his aura begins to rise. Then, it ignites. Flames coil around him, tightening and intensifying with each passing second. His eyes burn a deep, piercing red, locked onto the monster with absolute focus. That's enough, he says. He draws his sword and vanishes. The ground beneath his step shatters as he moves. In an instant, he appears directly in front of the monster. No hesitation, no pause. His blade drives straight into its core. Energy gathers at the point of impact, unstable and violent, trembling with destructive force. Then he roars. Flame Soldier. Saffron blade burst. The world flashes white and explodes. Flames erupt from within the monster, tearing through its body from the inside out. They don't spread outward, they consume everything from within. In mere seconds, the massive creature collapses into burning fragments, reduced to nothing. Then silence. The boss is gone. For a brief moment, no one moves. Then the team erupts. Cheers break out, voices filled with relief and disbelief. They call it insane. They call him unstoppable. Their president, their leader, their strongest. A robocam floats forward, its voice calm and mechanical as it announces the result. Dungeon cleared successfully. Total time, 35 minutes. The team freezes, then realizes what that means. They cleared a D-rank dungeon in under half an hour, with a 3 times multiplier. That's 150 points. A perfect score, a new record. Gao Tong calmly sheaths his sword. While the team celebrates behind him, he has already moved on. Turning away, he speaks without looking back. Let's go. Time to check the rankings. But there's a problem. That record had already been broken before they even finished. Elsewhere, As Gongshang reaches the exit of the Devil's Cave alongside his group, confidence radiates from him. He laughs loudly, pointing out that even the lowest tier Devil's Cave would normally take at least an hour to clear. In his mind, their performance is exceptional, undeniable proof of their strength. As they walk toward the exit, fully convinced of their achievement, none of them realize that something far beyond their expectations has already taken place. In the hall, chaos lingers like a heavy shadow. Injured students are scattered across the space, wrapped in bandages, their faces pale and drained of color. Some sit in silence, staring blankly, while others struggle to steady their breathing. One student trembles uncontrollably, his voice breaking as he continues to beg the monsters for his life. Unable to separate himself from the nightmare he just escaped, his companion kneels beside him, trying to calm him down, reminding him again and again that it's over, that they made it out alive, but the fear refuses to leave. Nearby, a girl collapses into tears, her voice shaking as she describes just how overwhelming and terrifying the monsters were, her words spilling out between sobs. Gongshang looks over the scene and scoffs. To him, this is nothing more than proof of weakness. His confidence only grows stronger as he watches them. In his mind, anyone who came out early must have failed, must have given up when things got difficult. That's the only explanation he's willing to accept. But then his gaze shifts and stops. Off to the side of the hall sits Chun's team. Maling and the others are relaxed, sitting casually as if nothing unusual has happened. And at the center, Chun stands quietly, composed as ever. Gongshang's eyes narrow. This doesn't match what he expected at all. Still, he doesn't question it for long. Instead, he convinces himself of a simpler answer: they must have quit early. A faint smirk forms on his lips as he starts walking toward them, ready to expose what he believes is the truth. But before he can get close, a voice cuts through the hall. Gongting calls out to him. The sudden interruption stops Gongshang mid-step. He turns, slightly annoyed, but his attention shifts as his eyes move past Chun and land on the figure standing behind him, Carl Cavendish. A slow, deliberate clap echoes through the hall, instantly drawing everyone's focus. Cavendish moves forward with complete control, his presence alone enough to silence every conversation. The air itself seems to still as he speaks, his voice calm yet filled with undeniable authority as he praises the performances witnessed today. Behind him, the principal and Gong Lin enter as well, their presence only adding to the weight of the moment. The entire hall falls silent. Gongshang's earlier arrogance disappears, replaced by excitement the moment he realizes who has arrived. At the same time, Gongting steps forward confidently, lifting his hand as if expecting recognition. But Cavendish doesn't even spare him a glance. He walks straight past him. The gesture is simple, but its meaning is absolute. Gongting's hand remains hanging in the air, his expression frozen as Cavendish continues forward without pause. Step by step, he approaches until he stands directly in front of Chun. Then he speaks, his tone steady as he calls Chun remarkable and reveals the truth to everyone present. Chun's team cleared the deranged Devil's Cave in just 21 minutes. A murmur ripples through the hall. This isn't just impressive, it's something even professional teams would struggle to achieve. Gongshang's expression tightens as his earlier assumptions collapse completely, leaving no room for doubt. Yet at the center of it all, Chun's team remains steady, unaffected by the attention, and Chun himself stands as calm as ever. He acknowledges Cavendish with quiet respect, but his thoughts are already moving ahead. He knows exactly who stands before him, the vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance, one of the most powerful figures in the world. And that realization brings a question to the front of his mind. Why would someone like him come here? Cavendish studies Chun for a moment longer, as if confirming something only he can see. Then he repeats Chun's name, committing it to memory, a faint hint of approval crossing his expression, almost as an afterthought. He turns his head toward Gong Lin and acknowledges Gong Ting's performance as well, praising his ability to lead a team through the same challenge at such a young age. Gong Lin responds with polite humility, but his gaze lingers, thoughtful and sharp. As the weight of everything that has just been revealed settles over the hall, Gong Yan's gaze shifts slowly, drifting toward his son, Gong Ting. There is clear approval in his eyes, but beneath it, something else lingers: dissatisfaction. The comparison has already been made, and the difference is impossible to ignore. Without saying a word, the conclusion is understood. With that, Cavendish decides it is time to leave. He turns calmly, noting that it's getting late, and begins walking out alongside the principal. As he exits, he casually remarks that discovering talents like these is like finding rare prodigies. His words remain in the air even after he is gone, leaving a quiet weight behind. A moment later, Gong Yun steps forward and clears his throat, pulling everyone back from their thoughts. The sound alone is enough to draw all attention toward him. He announces the final results of the assignment. Both teams have achieved perfect scores, a tie. For a brief second, the words simply hang there. Then their meaning settles and the hall erupts. Excitement bursts from every corner. Maling jumps to his feet, unable to contain himself, shouting in celebration as the realization hits him. The rest of Chun's team follows, their tension finally breaking as relief and joy take over. Even the opposing team reacts with excitement, understanding what this means for them. Entry into the Empire Guild, a direct path to the top. But in the middle of all that celebration, one person remains completely still. Gongting. Gong Yun raises the stakes even further, his voice steady as he continues. Both Gongting and Chun will be granted core management positions within the Empire Guild, and the prize money 1 million will be split equally between them. This time, Chun reacts not outwardly, but internally. His expression doesn't change, but his thoughts sharpen instantly. He remembers the promise he made to Chinky. 1 million within a month, with only half the reward. That promise becomes uncertain. 50% isn't enough, and delaying isn't an option. In that instant, he reaches a clear conclusion. He will have to find another way to earn the remaining 500,000 and quickly. While Chung quietly calculates his next move, Gongting finally breaks his silence. He steps forward and rejects the result. In his mind, there cannot be two winners. There can only be one. His eyes lock directly onto Chun, filled with unwavering determination as he demands a one-on-one tiebreaker. Shock ripples across the hall once again, cutting through the lingering excitement. Gong Yan reacts immediately, moving forward with urgency as he tries to shut it down. He insists that the assessment is already over, that a tie is the best possible outcome, and that there is no need to push things further. He assumes Chun will refuse, but Chun doesn't hesitate. He accepts. The shift is immediate. The noise fades, and the entire hall falls silent once again. Chun's calm expression remains unchanged, but his focus narrows completely. His condition is simple: if he wins, he takes the entire 1 million. Gongting steps forward without a second thought and accepts just as quickly. If Chung can defeat him, then he can have it all. At the far end of the hall, just as he is about to leave, Cavanagh slows his steps. He turns slightly, a faint smile forming on his face. His interest has returned. Back in the hall, Chun and Gongting begin walking toward each other. Step by step, the distance between them disappears. Their eyes meet, neither willing to yield, both fully aware of what is at stake. The atmosphere tightens, growing heavier with every passing second. And as they finally stand face to face, Chung calmly presses forward, asking how the match will be decided. What began as a simple evaluation has now transformed into something far greater, a battle to determine a single, undisputed winner. After a brief time skip, the scene opens with Qingzi standing before Chun, his expression filled with unmistakable amazement. He admits honestly that he had always believed Chun was capable of securing first place, but what he never imagined was that Chun would completely shatter expectations and achieve a perfect score. His voice carries both pride and disbelief as he mentions how Chun's accomplishment has already spread everywhere, dominating headlines and becoming the center of attention. Realizing the weight of his earlier decision, Qingzi smiles faintly and says that it seems he made a truly wise investment. Because of that, he tells Chun there is no need to repay the 1.5 million anymore, suggesting that Chun should simply treat it as his support for his future. The scene then shifts to the two of them seated across from each other. Chun, however, doesn't share the same ease. His expression is calm but slightly troubled, as if he has been carefully thinking things through. After a brief pause, he firmly shakes his head and refuses. In a steady voice, he says that a debt is still a debt, and no matter what, he intends to repay it. He explains that he came here today for two important reasons. Qingzi, now curious, leans back slightly and gives him his full attention, calmly telling him to continue. Chun begins with the first matter, the repayment deadline. With respect, he asks for a 1-week extension. He explains that because the graduation assessment ended in a tie for first place, he received 500,000 less than expected. As a result, a one-on-one tiebreaker match has been arranged between him and the other top student. He reveals that this match will take place exactly 1 week later, inside a dangerous area known as the Wild Devil's Cave, located just outside the school grounds. The moment those words leave his mouth, Qingzi's composure breaks. His expression shifts instantly to shock, his eyes widening as he tries to process what he just heard. In a tone filled with concern, he questions the decision, asking if they truly intend to enter such a deadly place despite being nothing more than students. He emphasizes that neither of them has undergone proper guild training, making the situation even more dangerous. His voice grows heavier, almost anxious, as he struggles to hide how deeply unsettled he feels about Chun stepping into such a life-threatening environment. But Chun remains completely calm. Without hesitation, he reassures Qingzi, telling him there's no need to worry. With quiet confidence, he explains that once he wins the tiebreaker, he will receive the remaining 500,000. Not only that, but he also promises to hand over every material he collects from the Devil's Cave. He asks Qingzi to consider those materials as interest in exchange for granting him the extra week. Hearing this, Qingzi falls silent. For a moment, he simply watches Chun, lost in thought. Deep inside, he feels a growing sense of astonishment. Here is someone about to walk into one of the most dangerous places imaginable. Yet there is no fear in his eyes. Instead, his only concern is fulfilling his responsibility and repaying his debt, down to the last detail, even adding interest. At that moment, Qingzi realizes that Chun is far more extraordinary than he had ever imagined. Then Chun speaks again, but this time his tone changes. It becomes more serious, more deliberate. He says there's one more reason he came today. Something even more important. However, the story keeps this revelation hidden. We don't hear what he says. All we see is Qingji's reaction, and it is enough. His expression shifts dramatically, his shock far greater than before, leaving behind a deep sense of mystery about what Chun just revealed. Whatever it is, it's clearly something significant, something that will matter later. Soon after, the scene transitions. It is now the afternoon of June 17th at Qingshan County. Inside Kingshui Middle School, the atmosphere feels light and cheerful as students celebrate the end of their exams. Among them is Si Chen, who looks especially happy. With a bright smile, she excitedly says that the final exams are finally over, and summer vacation has officially begun. As she casually checks her phone, something suddenly clicks in her mind. Today is also the day of her brother's graduation assessment. Her attention drifts, and her gaze softens as she looks at a photo of him. Slowly, her thoughts pull her back into a memory from 4 years ago. Back then, Chun stood before her with excitement shining in his eyes, telling her that elemental potential had been detected in his body, and that he had been accepted into the National Awakener University. Hearing this, young Si Chen had been overwhelmed with joy. Her eyes sparkled with hope as she asked if that meant he would become an Awakener just like their parents. Chun had smiled with confidence and nodded. He told her that it was true, that he would join a top guild, earn a lot of money, and make sure she lived a better life. Then, with a more determined tone, he added something deeper that maybe, just maybe, he would also uncover the truth behind their parents' disappearance. Hearing that, Si Chen's face lit up completely. She admired him with all her heart, calling him amazing and declaring without hesitation that her brother would one day become an incredibly powerful awakener. But the memory doesn't end there. Another moment follows. This time, Chun wonders aloud why he still hasn't awakened yet. Even then, he keeps smiling, brushing it off as if it's nothing, saying that it just means he needs to work harder. On the surface, he appears calm and positive, but behind that smile lies something much heavier. From Si Chen's perspective, the truth becomes clear. After entering the university, Chun worked harder than anyone else. He pushed himself to the limit, giving everything he had. Yet despite all his effort, he became the only one who failed to awaken. As she watched others succeed one by one, she realized how lonely he must have felt during that time. And still, he never let her see that pain. He hid it all behind a gentle smile, always making sure she never had to worry. As these emotions fill her heart, the memory fades, and the scene returns to the present. Si Chen stands there quietly, still lost in her thoughts, when suddenly a friend runs up to her and calls her name. The girl looks excited, almost unable to contain herself, and eagerly asks if Si Chen has heard the latest news. Then, with a spark of excitement, she begins to reveal something important, something about the National Awakener University has produced 2 genius graduates this year. Both of them led their teams to achieve perfect scores, something incredibly rare. She goes on, barely able to contain her excitement, explaining that even the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance personally visited them and praised them highly. Because of this, the news is spreading everywhere, and according to her, their entire Qingshan County is about to gain fame because of these achievements. Then, as if something suddenly clicks in her mind, she turns to Si Chen and casually asks if her brother also studies at that same university. Before Si Chen can properly respond, a pink-haired boy approaches them. His expression is polite, his tone calm, but there's something unclear about his true intentions. He greets Si Chen respectfully, wishing her a good afternoon, and then smoothly brings up that he has already booked a penthouse private room at the Zifeng building. With a casual confidence, he asks if she will be free at 8 p.m. The narration then reveals his identity. His name is Jin Duoxin, a student from Shimizu University. Zhetong is instantly shocked by this sudden invitation, clearly not expecting something like this at all. However, Si Chen's reaction is completely different. Instead of surprise, her face shows visible frustration. Without giving any proper reply, she suddenly turns and begins walking away at a fast pace, almost as if she's trying to escape from everything around her. Seeing this, Zhetong hurriedly calls out to her, confused and asking why she's walking so fast. Even Jin Duoxin is left standing there, slightly stunned by her unexpected reaction. At the same time, Si Chen is no longer paying attention to anything around her. She is completely lost in her own thoughts. Her mind keeps circling back to the same painful idea her brother's classmates are now making headlines everywhere, celebrated as geniuses for achieving perfect scores in their graduation assessment. And yet, her own brother couldn't even manage to awaken. The comparison weighs heavily on her heart, filling her with sadness. Her emotions begin to swell, and she feels as though she might break down at any moment. The unfairness of it all hurts more than she can express. But instead of giving into those feelings, she makes a quiet decision. She tells herself that she needs to hurry home and prepare a huge, delicious meal for him, something that might bring even a small smile to his face. As night falls, the scene shifts. We see Chun sitting at a table filled with a wide variety of dishes. The food looks rich and carefully prepared, each plate showing the effort and care that went into making it. The sight clearly surprises him, and he asks Si Chen how she even managed to cook so much in such a short time. However, she doesn't respond. She simply sits there quietly, her silence carrying emotions she cannot put into words. In the background, the television continues playing the evening news. The broadcast reports that earlier that morning, Dongshan National Awakener University successfully concluded its graduation combat assessment. It mentions that the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance, Carl Cavendish, personally attended the event and interacted warmly with the students. While the news continues, Si Chen quietly looks at her brother. Inside, she feels certain of one thing: he is pretending again. Failing something as important as a graduation assessment would crush anyone. Yet he shows no sign of it at all. No frustration, no sadness, nothing. Watching him maintain that calm expression only makes her heart ache more, as she realizes just how much he must be hiding behind that gentle smile. The news segment continues, and a female anchor begins speaking in a clear, steady tone. She explains that this year's graduation assessment resulted in a highly rare outcome, a dual champion situation. 2 exceptional students each led their teams to achieve perfect scores. She adds that Vice Chairman Carl openly praised this achievement in front of the media and was particularly impressed by one of the team leaders who secured a flawless result. Then, without pause, she announces the name student Chun. The moment those words reach Si Chen, everything stops. Her eyes widen instantly, and she turns toward the television in complete disbelief. For a second, she can't even process what she just heard. Then, almost as if trying to confirm it to herself, she whispers the name again, Chun. The realization crashes into her all at once, overwhelming her with shock and emotion. The brother she had been worrying about, the one she thought had failed, was actually one of the 2 geniuses being celebrated across the entire region. Before the moment can fully settle, the scene abruptly shifts. Now, we are taken to a completely different location, where the atmosphere is dark and heavy. A young hunter stands there, his body covered in blood, his clothes torn, and his skin marked with countless scratches and wounds. It's clear he has just come out of a brutal battle. Standing before him is a man whose presence feels cold and suffocating. His voice is sharp, filled with disappointment and quiet rage as he speaks. He says that everything had already been perfectly arranged: the stage, the opportunity, even the audience, and yet the performance was completely ruined. It is then revealed that this man is Gong Ting's father, and the injured young man standing before him is none other than Gong Ting himself. Without showing even a hint of concern for his son's condition, the father continues speaking harshly. He tells Gong Ting that he didn't just fail, he lost to an unknown nobody. The words strike harder than any wound on his body. Blood still drips from Gong Ting's injuries, yet his father's gaze remains cold and unforgiving. Then, in a decisive tone, he declares that from this moment on, Gong Ting will no longer have the freedom to make his own choices. Everything, he says, has already been arranged for the upcoming combat tiebreaker in 1 week. His voice grows even colder as he makes his intentions clear. Since Gong Ting has proven incapable of handling things himself, he will personally step in and ensure the outcome no matter what it takes. In his mind, there is only one acceptable result. First place must belong to the Gong family, and no one else. The scene ends with his icy words hanging in the air, leaving behind a chilling sense of danger, and the unmistakable feeling that the upcoming tiebreaker will be far more than just a simple match. Meanwhile, after hearing the news on TV, Yen turns toward her brother with a mix of curiosity and doubt, asking if the Si Chen being talked about is really him. Second, completely calm. It is indeed him. The moment those words leave his mouth, Kyun's hand trembles in shock, and her spoon slips from her grip, crashing onto the floor and shattering. At the same instant, a flash of lightning streaks across the sky outside, perfectly mirroring the intensity of her surprise. She stares at him in disbelief, struggling to process the truth her own brother had achieved. Something so extraordinary. During the graduation assessment, not only had he led his team to a perfect score, but he had also been personally praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. The room falls into a deep, stunned silence. Yen lowers her head, overwhelmed with emotion, quietly wiping away her tears as memories of her once carefree, silly brother fill her mind. But now, those same tears carry pride and joy. She looks at Chun with a soft smile, finally realizing that he has reached heights she had never imagined. On the night of June 17, 2157, the day of the graduation combat assessment, Vice Chairman Carl Kendish sits comfortably in a private dining room, enjoying a serving of premium beef. The atmosphere around him is calm and luxurious, a sharp contrast to the chaos of the outside world. As he casually eats, he asks for an update on the progress of a certain assignment. Sitting across from him is Lanyue, composed and professional. Without wasting time, she slides a black folder filled with top-secret documents across the table. The files detail a mysterious subject known only as the Devourer. She explains that over the past year, the target has left no trace whatsoever, making it nearly impossible to track. She also warns Carl that their surveillance efforts may already have been noticed. Despite the seriousness of her report, Carl remains completely unbothered. Instead, he calmly praises her work and tells her to relax and eat first. Lanyue hesitates slightly before speaking again, mentioning that she has one more piece of information. Her tone shifts as she reveals that she has identified a highly suspicious individual, someone who recently made contact with Carl himself. This immediately captures his attention. She explains that this person's growth rate is far beyond normal, something that shouldn't be possible under ordinary circumstances. Inside the Devil Tower, Chun stands shirtless, his body crackling with golden electricity that dances across his skin like living energy. He reflects on his progress, realizing that he has spent over half a month on the first floor alone, eliminating nearly every monster that existed there. The intense environment, with gravity 10 times stronger than normal, is no longer a burden to him. He has fully adapted. His system interface appears before him, displaying his Lightning Assassin class now at level 17, with significantly enhanced stats. After the graduation battle, his class reached full proficiency, rewarding him with an additional attribute point. This confirms his understanding that actively using a class is the key to mastering it. Around him, the glowing avatars of his for different classes hover silently, each representing untapped potential. Yet none of them have reached their true limits. Without hesitation, Chun assigns his new attribute, point to speed, the most critical stat for an assassin. Instantly, the multiplier pushes his speed to an astonishing 740, placing him at the level of an A-rank assassin. Despite this incredible boost, Chun finds himself locked in a tense and dangerous standoff. Surrounding him is a pack of glowing purple phantom lionesses. However, his real challenge lies beyond them, the floor's lord, a massive phantom lion king. No matter how many times he tries, he has not been able to land a single hit on it. As the lionesses suddenly leap toward him, his body transforms into a streak of golden lightning. In the middle of the clash, he begins to notice something unusual about the Lion King. Every time he identifies an opening and prepares to strike, the creature disappears at the exact moment his attack is about to connect. It doesn't dodge, it vanishes completely. Carefully observing their movements, Chun starts analyzing the pack's combat strategy. The lionesses constantly shift positions with precision, yet their formation remains consistent. Two of them always engage him in close combat, while the other to stay back, waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, the Lion King keeps his distance at all times, never directly engaging. Chun narrows his eyes in frustration, realizing that the Lord is deliberately avoiding direct confrontation. It's not fighting, it's controlling the battle from a safe distance. As one of the lionesses charges at him again, Chun counters swiftly, driving a powerful bolt of lightning straight into its mouth. For a brief moment, victory seems within reach, but just as he prepares to deliver the finishing blow, the creature suddenly vanishes in a flash of pink light, leaving him staring at empty air. That's when the truth becomes clear. This teleportation ability isn't limited to the Lion King. The lionesses can use it as well. A spatial portal briefly appears, allowing the targeted lioness to instantly reappear beside the Lion King, completely unharmed. The pack's strategy reveals itself in full. The moment Chun pauses or hesitates, another lioness immediately lunges forward, forcing him back into defense and baiting his attacks. Determined to break their flawless coordination, Chun channels his golden lightning once more, unleashing a rapid and relentless flurry of slashes. His movements are faster than ever, his attacks sharper and more precise. Yet, no matter how perfectly he strikes, the beasts continue to vanish just before his blades can make contact. Again and again, they escape, returning to their positions beside the Lion King. The formation never breaks. The distance is always maintained, and the battle continues, with Chun realizing that brute force alone won't be enough to defeat an enemy that refuses to be hit. Whenever the lionesses sense danger, they instantly react, their movements perfectly synchronized as if guided by a single mind. Their glowing claws slash toward Chun again and again, forcing him to stay on the defensive. Each time he counters, each time his attack should land, the result is the same. The moment of impact never comes. The lionesses vanish at the exact instant his strikes reach them, slipping through space itself to avoid damage. They rotate seamlessly through their portals, sending in a fresh attacker every time one retreats, maintaining constant pressure without a single opening. Chun continues to strike at the lunging beast, his speed unmatched, his timing precise, but the cycle never breaks. Every clash ends in empty air. The relentless loop of attacks begins to wear him down, forcing him into an exhausting rhythm of attack and defense. Sweat forms on his body as the pace intensifies. Frustration builds within him as his eyes lock onto the distant Lion King. In that moment, he realizes the truth. The Lord isn't just avoiding him, it's deliberately dragging out the fight, toying with him like prey. Leaping into the air to evade another incoming strike, Chun's thoughts sharpen. He questions his own approach. Why is he stubbornly trying to defeat enemies who can teleport using nothing but speed? The answer becomes clear. This battle cannot be won the same way. Without hesitation, he opens his system interface and initiates a class switch. A surge of freezing blue energy engulfs his body, spreading rapidly as ice forms over him like armor. His appearance transforms, his hair turns white, his eyes glow with an intense blue light, and a chilling aura radiates from him. If the Lion King refuses to engage in close combat, then he no longer needs to fight as an assassin. He will control the battlefield instead. This system confirms his transformation into the level 17 Cloud Mage, Frostbone, Skeleton King. Rising into the air with an icy crown forming above his head, Chun prepares to overwhelm his enemies with sheer magical dominance. Floating high above the battlefield, Chun raises his hand and unleashes a wide-scale spell Frost Spike. Instantly, a storm of massive ice spikes rains down from above, crashing into the ground with explosive force. The battlefield erupts in icy destruction, forcing the Phantom Lionesses to scatter and retreat under the barrage. From above, Chun calmly observes the chaos. He understands now while mages may lack strength in close combat, their true power lies in controlling space and dominating from a distance. Without wasting time, he focuses his attack on the Lion King, summoning a concentrated shower of falling ice spikes aimed directly at the beast. But just as the attack is about to land, the Lion King vanishes once again, slipping through space and reappearing safely at a distance. It regroups quickly with the lionesses, maintaining its evasive strategy. But this time, Chun is ready. As the beasts gather, a massive swirling vortex of icy energy suddenly forms around them, trapping the entire pack within its freezing grip. The air itself seems to solidify, cutting off their escape routes. Chun narrows his glowing eyes as he realizes that he has finally forced them into his domain. By locking them inside his kill zone, he has completely shut down their hit-and-run tactics. The Lion King senses the danger immediately. Panic flashes in its eyes as it looks upward only to see Chun forming an enormous sphere of freezing energy above them, a frost blast bomb powerful enough to erase everything below. His voice is cold and steady as he declares that there is nowhere left for them to hide. The Lion King lets out a desperate roar, but it's already too late. With a single motion, Chun hurls the massive ice bomb downward. The moment it strikes the ground, a blinding explosion erupts, flooding the entire area with freezing energy and pure white light. The impact is overwhelming, swallowing everything in its path. When the light finally fades, the battlefield is unrecognizable. Towering pillars of jagged ice rise from the ground, and within them, the Lion King and its entire pack are frozen solid, completely immobilized. The fight that once seemed endless is now frozen in silence. Without wasting a second, Chun switches classes again. A glowing pink sword materializes in his hand as his aura shifts once more. His blue eyes shine with confidence as he declares that the battle on the Dread Spire's first floor is finally over. Now, wielding his Stellar Warrior class, he launches himself forward toward the frozen enemies. In a single decisive motion, he unleashes a powerful downward strike triple cataclysm. The energy blade cuts through the frozen lionesses effortlessly, shattering their icy prisons and slicing them apart in one sweeping attack. One by one, the beasts dissolve into dark mist, their forms fading into nothingness. In the end, only Chun remains, standing victorious beside the fallen Lion King. A system notification appears, confirming his victory. His alias, Ash C, rises to level 24, receives several phantom bones along with a rare heart as rewards. Then, another prompt emerges above the Lion King's lifeless body, indicating that the boss monster is ready to be devoured. Chun steps forward, standing over the massive corpse. A bright light gathers in his hand as he begins the absorption process. His eyes glow red as he channels his energy, focusing intently on uncovering the secret behind the creature's evasive abilities. Activating his absorber skill, he pulls a swirling vortex of dark red energy out from the Lion King's body, drawing it into his grasp. The energy condenses within his palm, slowly taking shape until it forms a new system card. As the glow stabilizes, the card reveals its name, the Lion King's Stellar Tamer class. The information begins to unfold before him, hinting at the true nature of the power that had made the beast so untouchable. The card reveals the true nature of the Lion King's frustrating abilities, powers built around control rather than strength. It specializes in forcing contracts with other beasts and instantly teleporting them across the battlefield, turning them into both shields and weapons. As Chun studies the Stellar Tamer card, he realizes he has never encountered a class like this before. Everything begins to make sense. The reason the boss avoided direct combat wasn't strategy alone, it was necessity. Its base stats were simply too weak to fight head-on, forcing it to rely entirely on its summoned and contracted beast. Reading further, Chun acknowledges that the Stellar Warp teleportation ability is incredibly powerful, easily one of the most dangerous skills he has seen. Another skill, Stellar Pact, catches his attention as well, though it depends heavily on overwhelming the target with fear and forcing submission. From this, Chun concludes that if he ever wants a contracted beast of his own, he would need to adopt a far more aggressive and intimidating approach. Before he can think further, the starry void surrounding him suddenly begins to crack, like glass under pressure. In an instant, it shatters into a blinding light, forcing him to shield his eyes as the entire environment shifts. The illusion completely collapses, revealing the Dread Spire's true first floor, a vast, scorching desert stretching endlessly in all directions. Waves of heat rise from the sand, and massive skeletons lie scattered across the dunes, remnants of some long-forgotten catastrophe taken in the barren wasteland. Chun wonders what kind of disaster could have reduced this place to such ruin. Just then, a sharp crackling sound pulls his attention toward a nearby dune. The sand trembles as a vertical rift tears open, expanding into a fiery portal. Its burning edges flicker violently, signaling that the path to the second floor has finally opened. As Chun prepares to move forward, a sudden low growl echoes from behind him, filled with hostility. He immediately turns, his senses sharpening as he scans the shadows. His gaze locks onto a pair of glowing pink eyes hidden within a large rib cage, half buried in the sand. Inside, a small, fluffy lion cub crouches defensively, growling despite being tightly bound in glowing magical chains. Out of everything, one tiny lion managed to survive. He forms a lightning dagger in his hand and steps closer, ready to finish what he started. But as he approaches, something doesn't add up. The cub didn't disappear when the Lion King was defeated. Contracted minions dot his eyes shift to the chains wrapped around the small creature. They aren't restraining a servant, they're imprisoning it. A thought crosses his mind. Standing over it, Chun lets out a cold, intimidating glare, and the tiny lion stiffens in fear, unable to move. For a moment, the tension hangs in the air. Then, instead of striking, freed at last, the little lion collapses onto the sand, no longer restrained. Without making a big deal out of it, Chun turns away, calmly stating that he has simply returned the cub's freedom. As he begins to walk toward the portal, he pauses slightly and asks if this ruined desert used to be its home. Behind him, the cub shakes off the dust, silently watching him. Chun's expression softens just a little as he reflects on the pain of loss, the kind that comes from watching everything you care about be destroyed, from losing those you once stood beside. He admits quietly that he understands that feeling all too well. Then, without looking back, he tells the cub to stay alive and keep moving forward. It's time for him to move on. But just as he takes another step, a glowing system interface suddenly appears beside his face, halting him in place. The message is unexpected: a beast contract request. Because the request was initiated voluntarily by the beast itself, the success rate is displayed as 100%. The contract also comes with 2 passive abilities. One allows shared experience to enhance growth, while the other enables Chun to see through the beast's eyes whenever it is in danger. Chun slowly turns back, surprise flickering across his face. Sitting quietly on the sand, the small white cub looks up at him. The system identifies it clearly Lion King Leo and asks whether Chun will accept its request to become his contracted beast.